In a magical cave, he wanted to be the master of martial arts, but a single lifetime wasn't going to be enough. To change his fate, he clung to an old legend he had once heard. In a sacred temple, a fierce dragon guarded a golden fruit of immortality. With a focused gaze, he realizes the legend of the golden fruit was real. So he stands before the mystical tree, ready to face whatever comes his way. And there it was, shining brightly, the famous fruit of immortality. The warrior looks completely worn out, but his mission was almost over. He finally manages to defeat the divine dragon and celebrates his great victory. Even though he's all beaten up, he forces himself to walk toward the sacred tree. With the fruit in hand, he believes he can continue his quest for ultimate power. Without a second thought, the guy goes and takes a bite of the golden fruit. His name was Gylfazeldragon, the man everyone knew as the strongest. Many years pass, and we see a beautiful castle surrounded by a flower garden. Inside a room, a family is gathered around an old man on his last breath. This is Gilliam, the first son of the Eldragons, and he looks really down about it. The old man in the bed is Gylfaz, and he tells his son not to make such a sad face. A child says the mansion feels a bit empty, without their mother or father around. The old man then complains, saying that in the end, legends couldn't be trusted, but he's happy to have had an incredible wife and children in his life. Facing his beloved children, he says he's lived long enough in this life. With everyone around and the maids crying, the guy says he has no regrets. But inside, a voice screams that this is crazy, and that of course he has regrets. He holds his son's hand, thinking that if he only had a little more time. Tears stream down his face as he desperately wishes for more time. With his last bit of strength, he reaches out, as he hasn't yet become the master of martial arts. His son cries as Gylfazeldragon finally passes away. Or at least, that's what it seemed, because out of nowhere, a baby with golden eyes appears. The guy, now in a baby's body, wonders if he was sleeping, and his body feels super light. Looking at his tiny hands, he's startled to see they look like a baby's hands. With wide eyes, he can't believe those hands are really his. It finally clicks, and he understands what happened. He's become a baby. He tries to calm down, thinking it was impossible to put someone of his level through this. Lying in his crib, he's sure this isn't normal and wonders who did this. Then an idea pops into his head, and he starts to piece the situation together. He remembers the golden fruit he ate and the dragon he defeated way back then. With that, he understands the fruit's effect wasn't immortality, but rebirth. A smile appears on his face, and he celebrates because now he can achieve his goal. Looking around, he realizes he's not alone, and there are other babies sleeping there. He knows he was reborn into the Eldragon family, and wonders why there are so many babies there. At that moment, several maids enter the room with a cart full of baby bottles. He realizes it's feeding time, and as a baby, he can do absolutely nothing. But out of nowhere, one of the maids shows up holding a goblin by the neck. The other maids are confused, wondering what a goblin is doing there. Right after, the creature is used to fill a baby bottle with a red liquid. The strange substance splatters everywhere and ends up staining our hero's crib. He's in shock from the scene, not getting what had just happened. Soon, one of the maids picks him up to give him that strange potion. The woman then forces the bottle on him, and he realizes that stuff wasn't milk. The liquid had immense power, and he thinks it's dangerous to give it to babies. He sees the other children being fed and realizes just how dangerous this is. On instinct, the boy tries to resist, but remembers he's just a baby now. Then he figures out that the liquid is ancient dragon's blood, and gets really ticked off. Now he understands why they were diluting the substance to give to the babies. With a scared look on his face, he decides he needs to spit it out as fast as he can. The other babies spit it out on instinct, but he had already swallowed a little. But he suddenly changes his mind and realizes this could be an opportunity. If he absorbs the power of the blood, he might even surpass his past life. And with that in mind, he starts drinking the entire contents of the bottle at once. Not knowing why they're doing this, he decides he's going to take advantage of the situation. A great red energy begins to manifest in his body. With his eyes glowing, he shows that they shouldn't underestimate him at all. With a determined look, He warns them not to underestimate Gylfa's Eldragon. In a flash of light, he shows his full will to absorb that power. The maid holding him is shocked by the baby's crazy reaction. He absorbs it all to reach the pinnacle of martial arts he's always dreamed of. In his mind, he can see the image of an ancient dragon flying through the skies. Right after, he sees two dragons fighting as the energy is released. He's surprised because the power is being absorbed with great ease. In the midst of a power explosion, he concludes the situation is perfect for him. Back in his crib, he celebrates having managed to control all that power. He notices the other babies also survived because of their instincts. After all the effort, he feels very tired and ends up falling asleep. 7 years go by, and we hear someone counting very high numbers in the distance. We see a boy lifting a giant rock as he does his training. With a powerful kick, he easily sends the huge rock flying high into the air. Then he jumps and shatters the rock with just a single, precise punch. This boy is Zeke Eldragon, the former Gylfa's, and he admires his new body. In a forest, it's explained that all living beings have a source power, and the dragon's blood that Zeke and the others drank had immense power. Because of that, all the babies gained bodies much stronger than normal. Zeke was the only one to absorb all the power, and the changes surprised even him. But even with all that power, he only managed to reach the 1-star level. The star situation is terrible, and he should have reached at least 4 by now. The body is like a universe with stars, and the more stars, the stronger you get. In his past life, Gylfas had reached 10 stars, and was the only one with that kind of power. 7 years have passed, and now he lives as the illegitimate son of the family head. His mother has passed on, and his father has never come to visit him, not even once. Thinking about it, he wonders how much time has passed. Maybe about 1,000 years. Being reborn 1,000 years later was a surprise, and the world had become a test of survival. And the dragon's judgment ritual, where babies drink the red liquid, is proof of that. Only the babies who survive receive training as warriors of the Eldragon family. But looking at the maid in the house, he realizes something is wrong. He asks about the other babies, but the maid says she can't answer. The boy complains that he's been without a teacher for 7 years, and that there are only maids there. For now, the body is more important, and he can train just fine on his own. He then asks for information about the other children, but she refuses again. He insists it's just a family matter, but the answer is still the same. Annoyed, the boy asks if that's all she knows how to say to him. With a frightened face, the maid repeats that she cannot answer his question. He asks if his treatment isn't a bit harsh, but she ignores him. He figures out the maid is a 3-star fighter and decides to go to the forest. Zeke is bothered by the lack of conversation, even after living together for 7 years. The maid simply ignores him, and he gets even more annoyed with the situation. He goes into the forest to continue his training and strengthen his body even more. The boy pulls a plant from the ground and observes it for a moment. Without a second thought, he eats the poisonous plant and makes a face at the bad taste. He complains about the taste but knows that it's also part of his training. With a serious look, he thinks that he needs to be patient to move forward. He feels a gaze following him and wishes it would finally stop. He calls out to whoever is watching him to come out and talk. Hiding among the bushes, he stays alert for any suspicious movement in the forest. A purple energy starts to appear in the forest, and he prepares for danger. Hidden among the leaves, he sees a strange creature and tries to identify it. He sees a giant boar with a purple aura and realizes it's a rage boar. He notices a black mist that didn't exist 1,000 years ago and gets curious about it. The rage boar slowly approaches and stares at him with its glowing eyes. The boy stands up and comes face to face with the creature, getting ready for a fight. The animal charges straight at him, ready to attack with its tusks. With a confident smile, Zeke prepares to face the enormous wild boar. He easily dodges the attack and positions himself to counter the creature. With a glowing fist, he prepares to hit the boar with all his strength. He lands a direct hit on the animal, defeating it with a single, powerful, and precise blow. Looking at his hand, he realizes that even with 1 star, his power is immense. He carries the boar on his back and concludes that the quality of the stars is important. Tired of being ignored, he decides it might be time to go on a journey. Hiding, a mysterious guy is impressed with the boy defeating the boar all by himself. Since his mother passed away early and his father doesn't care, Zeke didn't have a proper upbringing. The man finds the situation interesting, as the boy is an illegitimate son. With a smile, he disappears into the forest, leaving only a trail of light. Back home, Zeke prepares for his journey and packs his things. He senses the presence of 4 people and wonders what fighters want there. Hiding, he overhears the conversation and notices the country air is really clean. The boy notices they don't seem like bad guys, so it probably isn't a trap. He opens the door and asks what they want, and the guys notice the family symbol. One of the men steps forward and prepares to speak to the boy. The leader introduces himself and says they've come to take him to an important exam. Zeke is surprised and doesn't understand why he has to take an exam out of the blue. With a panicked expression, he can't believe what he's hearing. He yells that he wasn't taught anything and therefore isn't prepared for a test. In a new uniform, Zeke is thoughtful and didn't expect this turn of events. He never imagined he would return to the main house of the Eldragon family. He was taken by the guys, but not to live in the main family house. The golden dragon symbol represents the dragon's nest, a fighting school. Everyone in the Eldragon family dreams of getting into the nest and studies until they're 7 years old. The boy complains because he wasn't taught anything and doesn't know what to expect from the exam. But the exam was mandatory, which is why he was brought from the border to participate. He complains because he was planning to run away, and now all his plans have been ruined. Crouching in the courtyard, he watches the other candidates and feels a bit out of place. A blue-haired boy approaches and asks if he's okay and if he needs help. He introduces himself as Rangus and says he saw him looking worried about something. Zeke is surprised by the sudden approach and watches the boy carefully. He realizes the boy is shy but very observant, and that impresses him. He stands up and apologizes for his strange reaction to seeing the boy approach. Our hero introduces himself as Zeke and says his name was Rangus, right? He explains that he was confused about the exam, and Rangus says the test is always the same. Zeke admits he knows nothing about the test, and Rangus is shocked by the revelation. An older boy approaches and calls Rangus a weakling in a mocking tone. The two turn to see who's talking and are surprised by the approach. This is Retin, and he asks why a weakling like Rangus is at the exam. Rangus stammers and says he's there for the Dragon's Nest exam, like everyone else. Retin points his finger and laughs, saying Rangus doesn't have a chance in heck of getting in. He makes fun of his bluish hair and calls him a pseudo-dragon. The boy explains that the Eldragon family has a very clear hierarchy. At the lowest level are the dragon hatchlings, and right above them are the regular dragons. In the third position are the adult dragons, and finally, the ancient dragons. The ancient dragons are the family's elite and hold the leadership positions. Those who can't get into the dragon's nest fall to the lowest category. Rangus's father couldn't pass the exam, and that's why he's considered a weakling. Rangus clenches his fists and says he wants to prove his worth, even as a pseudo-dragon. Zeke steps in, says there's no way to know the exam's outcome before trying. Retin gets irritated by the interruption and rudely asks who the nosy kid is. Our hero casually asks if the bigger kid has a problem with him. Mockingly, Retin points a finger in Zeke's face and says he looks weak too. The blue-haired boy gets worried and senses things are getting tense, but he remembers Zeke's ominous aura and knows he's much stronger than Retin. A sinister aura forms around our hero, and Rangus senses the threat in the air. Zeke asks how Retin dares to say they're beneath someone so weak. The tension in the air is cut when the instructor arrives and gets everyone's attention. He introduces himself as the test examiner and announces that the evaluation is about to begin. Retin backs away, annoyed, and promises he won't forget Zeke's face anytime soon. Rangus breathes a sigh of relief and says his friend didn't need to get so worked up. Zeke replies that anyone would get annoyed if they were called weak by a weakling. He then questions if the admission test is really mandatory for everyone, and he suggests that he could just drop out of the exam and leave without participating. Ranjis is perplexed and shocked at the idea of someone wanting to quit the test. The boy smiles and says that if Zeke quits, he won't risk getting hurt. The golden-eyed youth says it would be impossible to quit with his power level, but Ranjis tries to cheer him up, telling him to hurry and get to the test location. The examiner explains that the test is very simple. You just have to scratch the stone to pass. He says the candidates will only have 3 attempts to scratch the rock. The boy is surprised and comments that the test seems much easier than he thought. He thought he'd have to fight monsters or something dangerous after the blood ritual. Looking at the stone, he can't help but think the test is a bit lame. With a serious expression, the examiner shouts that the test can finally begin. A boy with a scared look on his face prepares and charges toward the stone with his sword. He hits the stone with all his might, hoping to cause some damage. The blue-haired kid turns his head and closes his eyes, refusing to see the result of the strike. The sword shatters into 1,000 pieces, and a red liquid immediately splatters everywhere. Zeke is horrified by the scene, and the other candidates also seem terrified. The examiner notes the failure and coldly asks if the boy wants to try again. The examiners smile and order the mess to be cleaned up, considering it a forfeit. With that, the boy is dragged away, and the instructor calls the next candidate to the stone. The blue-haired boy trembles with fear while our hero watches the scene, annoyed. With a confused expression, he focuses his gaze on the rock and tries to understand what it is. He notices the target is a regeneration stone that reflects brute force attacks. The young man hears from his friend that the material is crazy but can be scratched using power. With that, he figures out that energy control matters more than fighting skill. At that moment, a slight smile appears on his face as he understands the focus of the exam. Looking at the crowd, the boy notes that very few candidates will be able to pass this test, and so the test continues with another student crying in pain after failing badly. Right after, another guy leaves badly injured after trying to hit the rock with his weapon. The examiner just coldly jots down the results as the failed youths leave. It's our hero's turn, and his fearful classmate asks if there's any way to quit, but the golden-eyed boy walks calmly, telling his friend not to worry. The blue-haired boy stays behind in silence, watching his friend walk away with concern. Walking through the arena, the young man hears the screams of yet another student who messed up. At this, the inspector's eyes widen as he notices a strange detail about the new candidate. Zeke exudes a powerful aura and decides he won't use any fancy family weapons. The man asks why he's unarmed, and the boy replies that his fists are enough. The other students start laughing and gossiping, saying his arms are going to break. The fearful boy hears the comments and panics, imagining his friend getting messed up. He clenches his clothes in frustration, blaming himself for not holding his friend back more forcefully. Without caring about the noise, the instructor just makes a note on his clipboard and says to begin. The fighter touches the stone, analyzing the material, and realizes he has a lot to learn, but putting that aside, he readies his right fist with a fiery energy. In the stands, the blue-haired newcomer screams Zeke's name in desperation, trying to stop the blow. However, our hero moves forward without fear, with an excited smile and eyes glowing with energy. He then decides to unleash all his power, using the first form of a secret technique. An explosive punch hits the rock hard, creating a shockwave that cracks the ground around it. The collision generates a burst of golden light, crushing the surface as if it were paper. The impact unleashes a crazy gust of wind, and the fearful boy has to shield himself, impressed. Even the experienced examiner feels the wind and holds onto his clipboard to keep it from flying away. In the middle of the stirred-up crowd, another mysterious student smiles, thinking it was cool. When the smoke clears, everyone sees the destroyed stone, proving the blow was strong. The young fighter laughs at the situation while looking at his own injured arm and thinking about training. The entire stands fall into complete silence, and everyone stares at the boy in shock. That same bully from before breaks into a cold sweat upon seeing the raw power of the one he had mocked. At that, A blonde girl in the crowd cracks a smile, finding the newcomer interesting. As for the blue-haired classmate, he looks like he's about to faint from the shock of what he saw. Our hero stands there, smiling proudly, as the rest of the courtyard finally goes wild. The examiner is shocked to see the stone vanish, and thinks it would require a lot of power. At this, the man reflects on the boy's lineage and tries to remember where he saw the technique. With his arm torn up, our hero approaches and asks how his results were. Without hesitation, the instructor announces his pass in a loud voice, and the young man smiles. The man then hands a green vial to the winner, who observes the item closely, but the inspector just smiles, asking him to clear the arena for the next ones. Walking down the stands, the boy grumbles that everyone is in such a hurry. At this, his blue-haired classmate grabs his hand excitedly, praising his friend's strength. Remembering the vial, the fighter shows the green liquid to his friend, wanting to know what it is. The fearful boy explains that it's just a standard healing potion, and our hero thinks. Analyzing the small bottle, he notes that it's not poison and guesses it's a spiritual remedy. These remedies are created using very hard to find materials and pure woods. They are potions made with mystical herbs and beast cores that heal and give power. But since they are very rare items, the young man doesn't waste time and downs the vial in one go. Instantly, a green aura covers his injured arm, healing the torn skin. Shocked, he realizes the family's drink is much better than the ones sold before. The blue-haired boy doesn't understand the surprise and says that healing a wound is no big deal. He says his magical energy didn't increase and that his friend's strength was way cooler. Holding the empty vial, the fighter acknowledges that the potion carries human wisdom. While the two chat excitedly, that bully glares at our hero with intense anger. The test continues, and several other candidates end up failing badly and leaving injured. Resting his face on his hand, the golden-eyed boy gets bored with the long wait. Trembling from head to toe, the little boy walks to the center, and our hero wonders why. Trying to help, the hero offers words of support, but it only makes the boy more nervous. Completely confused, our hero doesn't understand his classmate's lack of confidence. Standing in front of the rock, the blue-haired boy holds a giant, trembling sword. As soon as the evaluator gives the green light, the young man yells and attacks the stone with his weapon. But the sword doesn't even scratch the target, causing the boy to fall on his butt on his first try. Without giving up, he gets up quickly and concentrates more power into his second attack. But the result is the same, and the poor candidate ends up sliding face first into the dust. Sitting on the dirty ground, he's out of breath and can't believe the stone's resilience. In the stands, the bully and his friends laugh, telling the failure to just give up. Hearing the insults, that mysterious young man smiles and asks what they said. He reminds the bullies of a conversation, making the group of jerks nervous. The inspector cuts off the chatter and announces that the boy still has one last chance. Kneeling in the dirt, the young man tries to find strength but seems hopeless. At that exact moment, a figure approaches, stopping beside him and asking what he's doing. It was our hero, who crosses his arms and asks why his friend chose such a heavy sword. The blue-haired boy doesn't get the hint, and the hero says that picking a bad weapon is just dumb. Watching it all, the mysterious student smiles, agreeing that the big sword wouldn't do anything. The big bully laughs hard, calling the boy stupid because his father only taught him that. At this, the other lackeys agree, mocking that changing weapons won't help. Our hero ignores the insults and asks the examiner if he can switch weapons in the middle. With a positive response, the hero tells his blue-haired classmate that he can give it a try. Then, with a confident look, he encourages his friend, asking if he's going to give up. The poor boy lowers his head sadly, remembering all his failures, but squeezing his own leg hard, the boy decides he won't surrender. He decides to try using the spear lying on the ground, and the hero looks at him with pride. The young man reflects on his past, remembering that his father never got into the dragon's nest. At this, he remembers when he was little and was bullied, being called a fake dragon. Even so, his father never held a grudge and always raised him with a lot of love. Holding the spear firmly, the student decides to prove that his training was worth it. The blue-haired fighter knows he would have failed again with the sword and trusts his friend. However, the boy is confused, not knowing how to use the new weapon, and our hero points forward. The hero tells his classmate to focus on the target and thrust the spear with all his might. He reinforces that the fearful boy just needs to deliver a straight blow to break the rock. A simple strike with a weapon he's never used shouldn't do anything, but the young man trusts in his new classmate's strength and focuses all his attention on the spear. With that, the boy decides to believe in himself and prepares his body for the attack. At that moment, he feels a giant energy flow through his body like never before. The boy lets out a fierce cry and hits the stone head on, creating an explosion. The big bully keeps laughing and mocking that a simple attack wouldn't do anything. But the blue-haired boy ignores the laughter and feels the spear become part of his body. With the force flowing, the tip of the weapon deforms the material and begins to pierce the rock. The final impact is devastating, and the entire target shakes, generating a gust of wind. All the bullies who were mocking before widen their eyes in total shock. Even the serious examiners are surprised to notice that the stone has been pierced. Our hero claps excitedly, and the blue-haired boy stares at his hands in disbelief. Without wasting time, the inspector notes the excellent result on his clipboard. Hearing the examiner's voice approve his test, the young fighter is paralyzed. With tears in his eyes, he cries with joy, and our hero puts an arm around his partner's shoulder. The boy celebrates that he finally passed and gives his friend a big hug. Seeing the emotional scene, the group of failures tries to pretend it was just pure luck. Ignoring the gossip, the test inspector shouts loudly that the evaluation is over. He puts away his notes and announces that the school's entrance ceremony will begin. Our hero is a bit lost and asks the blue-haired boy if that was it. His friend starts sweating and comments in a trembling voice about what they're about to face. The instructors clear a path and bow as an important figure approaches. A red-haired man with glowing eyes exudes a dark and frightening aura. The hero thinks the guy is really gloomy, and his classmate freaks out, saying it's the leader. Looking at that intimidating figure, our hero whispers that a block of ice would be better. And then his classmate panics and begs with all his might for his friend to shut up. But the golden-eyed boy keeps staring at the chief, noticing his power level. That man emits a brilliant energy, followed by very strong warriors. The boy realizes that the family's strength lies in the number of powerful fighters. This sinister dude is Balza, the current master in an 8-star level fighter. 1,000 years ago, there weren't even 12 people in the world with that much power. Sitting in the stands, the blue-haired student gets nervous and says that he's his father. Without saying anything, the master walks to the front and the instructors call for silence. The man stops in the middle of the courtyard with a dark aura swirling around him like fire. In a deep voice, he orders all the young ones to strive to become the dragon. Hearing these cold words, our hero gets a serious look, not liking the guy. The presence of the 8-star warrior is so strong that the air becomes thick and heavy. All the students in the stands feel the crazy impact and break into a cold sweat, unable to move. The hero is amazed that an adult would use this level of pressure against children just to show off. With a furrowed brow, he realizes he's never seen someone with so much hatred for no reason. After speaking his single sentence, the leader turns his back and starts to leave. The main examiner starts clapping as if the guy had just recited a poem, and he shouts loudly, praising that cold speech, calling the big boss a beloved leader. But the students are all frozen while the master just announces he's leaving. Suck up instructor tries to pretend everything is fine and tells everyone to do their best. But our hero observes from a distance and comments to his friend that he couldn't take it anymore. Completely frozen, the students look at each other in silence, trying to understand what happened. Next to his new companion, the blue-haired boy just sighs in relief. At this, the same annoying instructor gets everyone's attention and announces the dorms. The curious student doesn't understand, and his fearful classmate explains they will be divided into 4 wings. Depending on their results, the youths will go to the north, south, east, or west wings. And then our heroes and his new partner's names are called, and the boy waves excitedly. After the exam, our hero finally arrives at his new home, a very fancy palace. Walking through the corridors of the place, the boy grumbles that things have changed a lot. Finally finding his room, he thinks that his classmate must already be there. The boy grabs the doorknob excitedly with a slight smile on his face. Then opening the door, he immediately apologizes for being late and says they'll be sleeping together. But suddenly, the smile vanishes from his face, and his expression turns to pure confusion. Looking inside the room, he can't believe it and finally reveals who is waiting for him. He can't help but laugh, recognizing his new partner from the exam at the table. His classmate agrees and comments that he was feeling a bit anxious in a new place. Entering the room, the hero throws himself carelessly onto the bed, wanting to know more, but his blue-haired friend laughs awkwardly at his companion's distracted face. Excited, our hero gives a shameless thumbs up, admitting he didn't hear any of the announcement. His blue-haired classmate advises that they should sleep early because training starts tomorrow. At this, the hero looks at the window, sighing, since his plan was to escape from that house. And the next day, the chaos begins with a student being hit by a rock. Our hero recalls the exam, thinking about the stones and that valuable green remedy. Then, sitting on the bed, he reflects that staying here might end up being very useful. With that, a whole month passes in that giant castle full of training. In the courtyard, we see the boys sweating a lot, and the instructor demands the breathing technique. The man yells that they need to master it, leaving his blue-haired classmate exhausted. Observing everything closely, the senior inspector analyzes the children's performance. He notes that some have already mastered the technique, highlighting a blonde girl with a strong aura. At that moment, the evaluator's eyes widen, completely shocked by another student. Our hero balances gigantic rocks with absurd ease, and without breaking a sweat. The man finds it very strange, because the boy had no teachers and shouldn't know how. Taking a deep breath, the hero realizes their technique is just a version from the past. He understands that these skills only serve to absorb energy from the environment. As such, wealthy families guard these methods as secrets to stay on top. But the young man finds this version too basic and decides he doesn't need something so simple. So he decides to use the true secret technique of the Dragon King, which is better. The boy smiles excitedly, realizing the family dumbed down the technique just so everyone could use it. Returning to his training, he glances to the side and observes the blonde girl. After much effort, the whole class gathers in a dining hall to finally eat. However, most of the students are so tired they can barely touch their food. But our hero doesn't care about the fatigue and devours his entire plate hungrily. With his mouth full, he tells his partner that no one gets strong by skipping meals. His classmate is shocked by so much energy, and our hero jokes that the others are weak. Excited, the hungry young man pulls his friend's plate, saying he'll eat his share. Chewing nonstop, he notes that at least some students there train for real. At this, the same blonde girl from the courtyard appears behind him, smiling and praising the newcomer. The hero asks with complete innocence who she is, and his friend spits out his drink. Startled, desperate, his classmate whispers that she is the master's daughter and a candidate for leadership. The boy trembles with fear, warning that they shouldn't talk to someone so important. But our hero keeps a bored expression and couldn't care less about his friend's panic. With a firm gaze, the blonde girl asks if he really is the family's illegitimate son. She crosses her arms, wanting to understand how he managed to destroy the stone with his hands. The girl insists on the question while the hero just cuts his meat and tells his classmate to eat. The mood gets a bit awkward, with his friends shocked and the blonde girl surprised at being ignored. But instead of getting angry, she cracks a smile, finding his attitude interesting. Sitting casually at the table, she offers him a position to become her servant. She confidently states that she can protect the young man, since illegitimate sons need help. With that, she proposes an alliance, where the hero would use his strength to help her. The blonde girl offers protection with a smile, but the hero keeps eating and refuses the offer. The girl is confused, and her blue-haired classmate starts to sweat from the attitude. At this, the blonde girl approaches with a serious look, wanting to know the boy's goal. She stares deep into the newcomer's eyes, asking if he wants to be the leader. Our hero notices a powerful aura around the girl, finding it impressive for her age. But the golden-eyed boy sighs, bored, and says he doesn't care about that. Angrily, the girl slams the table, and the hero stabs his knife hard into the wood. The impact of the small blade creates a large crack on the surface of the place. Suddenly, a colossal fire aura appears behind the boy, who smiles and gives a warning. With a bright and scary look, the young fighter claims that he is the strongest. The pressure is so crazy that the girl stands up in shock, with sparks coming off her body, breaking into a cold sweat. The golden-eyed blonde is surprised to realize she was overwhelmed. The blue-haired classmate tries to calm the situation while the hero goes back to chewing his bread. Very nervous, the master's daughter points to her chest, demanding a duel for him to obey. With his cheeks full of food, our hero is confused, leaving his friend desperate. Sometime later, students run through the corridors, saying a fight is about to happen. The extras gossip in amazement that the family's prodigy is going to fight a stranger. Arriving at the huge sand arena, the blonde girl is already waiting as the duo approaches. The fearful boy trembles all over, warning that the situation has gotten way too serious. Our hero doesn't care and finds it strange that his friend speaks so formally to someone their age. Desperate, the boy explains that his opponent is a genius who masters deadly lightning. With a blank expression, the hero confesses that he didn't pay attention to any of the explanation. Hearing such ignorance, his companion puts his hands on his head, completely devastated. Almost crying, the student begs his friend to be careful and give up on the idea. But the young fighter flashes an excited smile, commenting that not knowing makes everything cool. His blue-haired partner cries nervously, and our hero just says he never runs from a fight. Observing the dust in the field, the boy notices that his opponent is already ready. Standing imposingly, the blonde girl sticks her large sword into the ground and calls to him. With a firm stance, the girl impatiently yells, calling for the newcomer to get in there. The hero gives a confident smile and tells his classmate that he's ready to go. At this, his friend runs away, begging once more for the fighter not to meet his end there. Walking calmly across the sand, our hero asks the reason for the girl's strong will. Leaning on her weapon, the blonde girl replies that she needs to make the boy bow to her. With a very bored expression, the boy asks what her life has to do with him. The master's daughter looks dumbfounded, unable to believe the boy knows nothing. Then, she raises her hand and explains that there are 5 main candidates for the throne. The young woman imagines the silhouettes of her siblings, stating that they are all strong. Because of this, she needs to gather as much power as possible to defeat her older siblings. Our hero has a cloud of confusion in his head, finding this politics stuff boring. Holding the hilt of her sword, the blonde girl ends the conversation, saying she needs support. At this, the girl stomps hard on the dirt ground, kicking up dust. Our hero just calmly watches her action without showing any concern. Then his opponent leaps high, holding her sword and declaring she will defeat the newcomer. She attacks with all her might, breaking the ground, but the hero dodges the blow by taking a step back. The golden-eyed boy is impressed, seeing the blade pass close to his face. Without losing rhythm, the fighter spins her body, trying to land another blow. In the audience, the students are in total shock at her speed, swinging the weapon. Our hero keeps smiling as he dodges a brutal sequence of fast cuts. Other students praise the girl's energy control, noting the family's power. However, despite the compliments, the blonde girl grinds her teeth in frustration, not understanding. The girl tries several consecutive cuts, but the hero dodges all of them, striking poses. The warrior attacks again, and the newcomer jumps over the blade, making her angry. Watching from afar, his blue-haired partner is open-mouthed at the agility. The young fighter analyzes the movements, noticing it's a new and fast martial art. Annoyed by her opponent's distraction, the master's daughter tells him to shut up. The hero replies that he is paying attention while concentrating energy in his fist. With crazy speed, He appears right under the blonde girl's guard, preparing a punch. In the blink of an eye, the boy hits his opponent's body, creating a strong impact. The girl feels the full force of the attack in her chest. Shocked by the counter, she is dragged across the sand, trying to balance, while the audience can't believe it. The winner stands there calmly, and the students wonder who the newcomer is. Kneeling, the blonde girl wonders angrily why she misses everything when she's the fastest. The newcomer raises his index finger and states with a bored face that she is weak. Furious, she yells that he also has a low level, but the hero just shrugs. He calmly explains that you just have to observe your opponent's breathing and eyes. The young man claims that by reading the tension in the muscles, it's easy to predict any attack. Smiling in a cocky way, the newcomer concludes the lesson by saying the rest is just using experience. His opponent thinks that's a joke and charges at him, launching another furious blow. The sharp blade grazes the hero's face, who throws his head back. Placing his hands on the ground, our hero does an incredible backflip, dodging the attack. In the middle of the acrobatics, the young man's fist reappears next to the warrior to prove his point. The new powerful punch generates a colossal wave of wind, exploding the sandy ground. The hero stops with his arm extended, confirming that the counter attack hit the girl. The audience screams in shock, believing the feared blonde girl has lost the fight. His blue-haired partner celebrates excitedly, but our hero warns that the fight isn't over. Suddenly, a boot steps firmly on the arena floor, starting to clear the dust. The fighter smiles, noticing that his opponent used her energy to withstand the punch. With a bloody face, the warrior uses her sword as a crutch, trying to endure the pain. The hero tells his friend to back away quickly, because things are about to heat up. Looking at the blonde girl's feet, our hero notices a crazy aura leaking out, proving she's gotten stronger. The blonde girl wipes the blood from her face, as an electric energy glows on her body. In the stands, the students are amazed, commenting that it's the mark of 2 stars. This high level allows a fighter to release the body's raw power outward. The warrior thanks the newcomer, saying she only achieved this because of his punch. With a sharp and brilliant gaze, the girl focuses all her attention on the battle. At this, the opponent charges with her sword at a crazy speed, guaranteeing she will win. Our hero cracks a smile, finding it all amusing and complimenting her new speed, but he quickly jumps, dodging a large spinning cut that shoots out lightning. However, upon landing, the young fighter notices a small cut appearing on his face. Wiping away the small wound, the boy is confused because he was sure he dodged it. The glowing warrior smiles confidently, saying that this is the ability she awakened. Then she concentrates more power into her weapon, stating that she now has the strength of 2 stars. With great fury, the master's daughter announces she will show him the family's lightning technique. The newcomer faces the large, glowing sword, excited to see a new art. With his eyes shining in a huge smile, our hero concludes that fighting is the best thing ever. His opponent releases a very strong flash of light, launching the ultimate move of her technique. The boy runs fast, dodging the lightning bolts, amazed by the control the girl has. Even while running away, the boy keeps the smile on his face, finding the power absurd. The fighter attacks the sand relentlessly, creating electrical explosions while noticing his joy. The impact of the sword shatters the ground, creating a web of electricity and pressuring the boy. Spinning upside down, the boy notes that the level of the attacks has become more dangerous. Sliding across the arena, the fighter concludes that moving up a level makes a crazy difference. Safely in the stands, his blue-haired partner sweats, fearing for his friend's life. Our hero notices that her cuts are ordinary, but the electric aura on the blade creates power. The girl warrior keeps increasing her speed, and the newcomer becomes intrigued. The boy is sure he could launch a counter, attack, and end the duel quickly, but he leans his body back, dodging another bolt and wanting to see her limit. Seeing the newcomer's calmness, the girl gets angry, stating that he's too relaxed. Manipulating the magical lightning, the blonde girl attacks again, promising to wipe that smile off his face. Before the electricity can cause damage, the hero stomps on the ground hard, jumping away. But his opponent quickly predicts the escape, leaping into the air using a thunder technique. The newcomer is a bit startled to see the warrior shoot toward him like a bullet. The powerful blow finally lands on the battlefield with terrible brutality. Completely in shock from the impact, his blue-haired friend tries to jump over the wall. But as soon as the dust settles, our hero emerges, walking on the rebel, slightly injured. Without giving the boy time to rest, the blonde girl fires another bright lightning bolt. With great reflexes, the boy kicks a broken rock from the arena to act as a wall. His fearful classmate invades the arena, crying and begging the girl to stop the fight. However, the blonde warrior refuses the request, claiming that pausing a good fight would be an offense. His companion cries, asking the newcomer to give up because he's already badly injured. The blonde girl offers the boy a chance to give up and serve her, stopping the fight. But the warrior notices her opponent's pride and decides to finish it with all her power. At this, she raises her large blade to the sky, invoking the lightning sword technique. With great fury, the girl unleashes the first secret art, launching the celestial thunder. A colossal pillar of energy hits the arena head-on, causing crazy destruction. The hero ends up being swallowed by the bright light as he takes the full force of the attack. Desperate in the stands, his blue-haired friend screams his partner's name. In the middle of the smoke, our hero falls to the ground, completely paralyzed by the lightning. Tired, his opponent plants her blade in the destroyed earth. Apologizing for the force, the blonde girl closes her eyes and takes a deep breath, declaring that the combat is finally over. But suddenly, an absurd burst of electrical energy erupts behind the young woman. Totally in shock, the master's daughter looks back, unable to understand what that was. The newcomer stands up, covered in lightning, thinking it's cool to discover the name of that aura. With a cocky little laugh, the boy faces his opponent, saying the secret is simple. However, he crosses his arms and shamelessly yells that he has no idea either. Hearing this utter madness, the blonde girl gets a blank look, trying to process it. The hero explains that he just took the attacks on purpose and suddenly learned how to use it. He details that he used a Dragon King breathing technique while taking the hits. The warrior listens intently as he says, the breathing technique reacted to her lightning. At this, the energy began to accumulate in his body, allowing him to control everything. With a smile, the young man deduces that his opponent's family must have a special body. The girl observes her weapon as the newcomer states that the ability is in her blood. The boy is amazed by the discovery and thanks the girl for the training. Concentrating a lot of electricity in his hand, the fighter announces that the best part has arrived. Thanks to her blows, the hero reveals that he also managed to reach 2 stars. With a terrifying golden gaze, our hero makes it clear that the battle isn't over. Furious with her rival's evolution, the warrior charges forward with a new powerful cut, but the young fighter isn't fazed by the blonde's fury and cracks a confident smile. The energies collide in the center of the arena, generating a frightening explosion of lightning. Appearing in the middle of the light, the newcomer charges forward with everything, using his new enhanced body. He realizes the energy improved his muscles and made him so fast that his senses are going haywire. Feeling the extreme change, the boy comments that he'll need some time to get used to it. His blue-haired friend sweats in the audience, barely able to follow the movements. The girl attacks relentlessly, but the hero dodges every cut with absurd ease. Very frustrated with the humiliation, the young woman yells, accusing her opponent of messing around. With a friendly little laugh, our hero denies the accusation and says he's taking it seriously. He dives from the sky, landing a brutal punch on the sword, proving he sees her as a threat. The impact pushes the warrior back, forcing her to drag her boots on the ground. Stretching his arms, the boy decides it's the perfect time to end the combat. The blonde girl is confused as the newcomer thinks for a bit and decides to name the move something. While trying to keep up with the fight, the blonde girl gets lost in thought about the technique. In the blink of an eye, the hero cuts through the distraction, and his opponent's eyes widen as he disappears. Fully focused, the warrior mentally prepares herself to counter the special attack, but the fighter appears under her arm, landing a blow called Thunder Peak. The punch explodes right in the girl's stomach, paralyzing her body in the middle of the arena. Without wasting time, the test inspector lets out a shout, declaring the end of the match. The boy says it was a really good fight, laughing with his hands on his hips. Fallen to her knees on the ground, the young warrior is out of breath, feeling pain throughout her body. Trembling with pure humiliation, the master's daughter grinds her teeth, stating something. Sweating profusely, she refuses to accept defeat because her mission is to beat her siblings. The blonde girl imagines the image of a dragon while remembering her siblings' superiority. However, she is startled when the newcomer crouches in front of her and says the showdown was good. The boy smiles, extending a hand to the girl, confessing that the duel was really cool. With a joyful expression on his face, he says it would be boring if it was the only time. Hearing these calm and sincere words, his opponent's cheeks blush. She falls sitting on the sand, out of breath, while her new rival helps her up to start over. Very excited, our hero guarantees with a big smile on his face that he already wants to fight again. Holding his hand, the girl cries, admitting that he is very strong and she lost. Hours later, in a dark dimension, the castle's examiners explore a rift. Some students in dark robes come face to face with an invasion of monsters. Using arms full of bones, the sinister monsters charge at the small group. In the midst of the darkness, an imposing warrior reveals his great power with an aura. A red shadow takes the form of a giant dragon, and the pressure crushes the air. At this, he delivers a strike with his heavy sword, hitting the beasts with impact. Shouting in anger, the warrior unleashes a deadly blast called the First Strike of Destruction. The power hits the enemies, tearing through time and space, disintegrating the spikes. A super intense glow cuts through even the arena stones, bursting every terrifying monster. After this show of destruction, the fighter sheathes his blade, ignoring the bodies. Terrified, a squad of inspectors passes right by the master, fearing his strength. Walking through the cracked portal, the powerful red-haired combatant displays his fury. As soon as the thick smoke clears, the boss with a vacant look listens to the report. Startled by the response, the guard shares a rumor about the young female candidate. Hearing this great news, the leader's footsteps echo through the vast hall. Swinging his royal cloak, he crosses his arms, awaiting the details about his daughter. With his head bowed, the messenger excitedly reports on the prodigy's great potential. But the dark leader becomes furious with the talk, wanting to know the girl's usefulness. Nervous, the poor instructor hesitates a bit and confesses that the fighter lost the match. Hearing the word lost, the master turns his back, demanding to know the winner's level. Hesitantly, the guard reveals the image of a young fighter, confirming the fact. The shadow of the golden-eyed boy flashes in the leader's thoughts, calling to him. The great leader remembers when our hero's mother was expelled from the family. She was a beautiful peasant who worked as a maid and won the master's love. The guard breaks into a cold sweat, remembering that the woman passed on during childbirth. Thus, he questions how a boy who grew up alone learned such strong techniques. Turning his back again, the supreme leader decides it's time to start the first test. Desperate, the inspector tries to warn that it's too soon and the students aren't strong enough. Using the image of several young people, the guard claims that the children wouldn't survive. The leader replies very coldly that misfortune doesn't forgive, and only the strong survive out there. Showing a deadly look, the warrior states that if the children don't pass, they deserve to disappear. Completely intimidated by the master's coldness, the guard falls silent, and the chief orders him. Hearing the name, the inspector is startled because the woman in question is very tough. With his cape fluttering, the leader walks to the center, ordering Freya to supervise. Very curious, the master thinks about the boy's achievements and decides to see for himself. The next day, our hero and the other students train with excitement in the arena. His blue-haired classmate punches the air, excited and sweaty, trying his best to keep up. Beside him, the young hero trains in a crazy way, lifting rocks and using his art. In the past, the 15th master created a super cool art to strengthen the family's bodies. Holding 3 huge stones, the fighter is confused to hear his partner's demand. Our hero sighs and says he has already learned the leader's lesson, and his friend almost has a fit. Completely calm, The boy points out that his partner's energy flow is wrong. After a lot of sweat, the hero finally destroys a large rock with ease. The boy notices his success and turns his head, ordering his blue-haired friend to turn around. His training partner starts to glow brightly, revealing he has awakened a star. The two boys smile with happiness, celebrating, and the hero guarantees it was the right way. Angry at his partner's doubt, the hero clenches his teeth, stating that his friend has mastered it. His blue-haired classmate cries with emotion, saying that no one besides his father had ever helped him. Very grateful for his strong friend's support, the boy cries, saying he thought the art was useless. Our hero shakes his head, praising him, and saying that the punch is actually brilliant. The old system had 4 very good levels of attack, plus a secret form. The warrior is curious because the last blow is so powerful it can destroy a dragon. Even though he's excited about the new technique's level, our hero resumes his own training. With a huge smile, he points out that everyone has their own time and rhythm. His blue-haired classmate is moved and, with tears in his eyes, asks the hero to train him. The boy scratches his face, finding his partner's request a bit bold, while noticing something. But the friends remain excited, coordinating their training and ensuring they will become strong. The duo looks on in shock as they notice the blonde warrior joining them in training. Embarrassed by the new classmate, our hero puffs out his chest, stating that she can stay. The girl blushes, feeling shy, and asks if she could also train. Her blue-haired partner chokes, finding it absurd that she would ask such a thing. Nervous about the conversation's atmosphere, the blonde girl admits she never imagined our hero to be so superior. The blonde-haired girl admits with shame that her pride was crushed by him. At this, she musters up the courage to ask the newcomer to train her to surpass her siblings. Our hero remains silent and thoughtful, and his blue-haired friend looks at the girl, surprised. With a sad look, the fighter thinks he will refuse because training an enemy is strange. The young man thinks about them being candidates, and his classmate remembers she is the chief's daughter. The boy says he doesn't care but asks if her body has already healed from the last fight. The girl shows a healing potion and explains she has already used one, so there's no problem. His blue-haired friend whispers that the potion used in the exam wasn't as strong as this one. He adds that since she's Leica, she must have used a much better potion. The young warrior insists on her request, wanting to know if he will make time for her. With a giant smile, our hero accepts right away, saying he would never refuse. The two are confused when the boy calls them young ones, since they are the same age. The boy asks if she's sure about training with the one who defeated her, and the blonde girl agrees. With a clenched fist, the young woman states she will do whatever it takes to get strong and become the chief. Our hero then asks the reason for such an obsession with becoming the clan leader. The girl reveals that if she doesn't become the leader, her fate is a political marriage. Upon hearing this harsh reality, the boy's face darkens, and he becomes very angry with the situation. She explains that the Ultragon family blood is special and can be used in various ways. His blue-haired friend gets scared and suggests they run away, but the hero gets irritated. With his fist in flames, the young man yells that he will destroy all these family customs. At that moment, a powerful voice shouts, ordering everyone to get in position in the arena. The trio is confused by the interruption, and the boy complains about the terrible timing. Then, a woman with long red hair approaches, walking toward them. One of the instructors announces that from that day on, they will have a new teacher. The red-haired woman approaches the blonde girl and asks if her name is Leica, surprising the girl. With a focused gaze, the blonde-haired girl is shocked by the new instructor. At this, Leica lets out a scream and jumps back, startled by the woman's approach. The red-haired woman blinks, praising the girl's reflexes and the quality of her energy. The two boys are shocked for not sensing her presence and wonder who she is. The other instructors also comment in awe that their new colleague is very fast. The woman then introduces herself as Lady Frigga, a member of the Black Dragon squad. After that, Frigga turns to our hero and asks if he is Lord Zeke, and he confirms. She is intrigued that he isn't surprised, but the boy says it's not shocking. The instructor narrows her eyes analyzing the young fighter with pure curiosity. With a confident smile, our hero comments that she has a cool fighting technique. Frigga thinks to herself that now she understands why the family head is interested. Our hero also analyzes the woman, thinking her stealth technique is cool, but his art is better. He notices her energy is concentrated in her legs and wonders what martial art it is. With her feet firmly on the ground, the new instructor prepares to start her first class. Frigga announces herself to the class, and all the students are in shock to see the famous Frigga. The inspector then reveals that she is a 6-star powerhouse, and everyone must learn from her. With this news, the students are shocked and wonder why someone so important has appeared. The red-haired woman replies that, of course, she will teach them, but then adds but with a confident smile, the instructor announces she will only teach those who pass her test. The class is desperate at the news of a surprise test being thrown at them. At this, she shows a crystal and says the test is to survive for a month on a mountain. The boys are scared just hearing the name, but our hero finds the name nostalgic. This place is a region full of venomous creatures and dangerous plants everywhere. Even touching a single blade of grass can be fatal for an ordinary person. The boy remembers training there in his past life and wonders if it's too soon. Frigga explains that if the crystal breaks or is lost, they fail instantly. A student asks what happens if they fail, and she replies that they will be expelled. The instructor explains that the poison can be controlled with a special family technique, but Laika raises her hand and questions the teacher about the mountain's monsters. The woman coldly replies that they must defeat the monsters to avoid starving. Terrified, the students wonder if their martial arts can handle this. She then smiles and says they will have 5 days to train in one of the weapon arts. With a way to fight the monsters, survival should be easy, but there's a catch. With an intimidating look, the redhead warns that she won't be responsible for them. A boy asks if she will help in case of danger, but the answer is an explosion. Frigga says the weak are eliminated, and if they don't pass, they must accept their end. All the students are terrified by her words, and some begin to cry. Our hero wonders if the family has changed and remembers a much kinder past. Clapping her hands, the instructor announces that she has talked enough and will distribute the manuals. The students start grabbing the books, and his blue-haired friend is unsure which one to pick. Our hero then advises his classmate to choose the spear, since he used one before. His friend thanks him for the help, while Laika thinks about taking the sword, but the hero stops her. Pointing his finger, the boy confidently says that his blonde classmate should choose fencing. The girl is confused by the advice, and the young man explains that it will help her. The girl decides to trust his advice, and our hero smiles, satisfied with the choice. After everyone has taken their manuals, the instructor announces they have 5 days to train. With a sinister smile on her face, the teacher warns that if they don't train, they will meet their end. The students hold their books tightly, feeling the weight of responsibility and fear. The red-haired woman suddenly stops and says she remembered one more important thing. She reveals that the older students will also be there to steal the newcomers' crystals. The upperclassmen are shown, and the teacher explains that the mountain is big, so they might not even meet. Waving a handkerchief, she says goodbye and wishes them good luck, as the upperclassmen will be hunting them. His blue-haired friend panics, yelling that besides the monsters, they'll also be attacked. Laika worries because the upperclassmen are 2-star or higher, and most will meet their end. Our hero agrees with her and shouts to everyone that if they can't do it alone, they should form groups. He explains that forming teams is not forbidden, and it's better to have more people for hunting. With a cute smile, the boy says that, of course, he will enjoy the challenge alone. The blonde girl is unsure if he can do it, but the young man already calls everyone to eat. Then 5 days pass, and the sun rises over the mountain, showing that the test has arrived. Already in their uniforms, the students look nervous, and the blonde girl comments that the weather is nice. Another group of students appears, and one of them agrees with the girl, saying the day is perfect. In front of everyone, the red-haired instructor prepares and, with a serious look, asks if they can begin. Just then, The blue-haired boy nervously remarks that the time for the test has finally come, and the blonde girl agrees. Terrified, the young man wonders if it's really okay for a guy like him to travel alongside her. He feels insecure, remembering he's just a commoner with no stars, but then he hears a familiar voice. Surprised, the spear-wielding boy turns around and breaks into a huge smile upon seeing his two old friends. The blue-haired girl is completely starstruck, saying she can't believe she'll be in a group with a noble. Beside her, the other blonde boy maintains a very calm posture and simply agrees with his friend. But the blonde warrior firmly states that she doesn't care about bloodlines, only about abilities. Hearing their leader's words, the young ones grip their weapons with determination, ready to give it their all. Full of energy, the blue-haired partner promises to fight hard and not be a burden to the team. The three friends form a great team, while the blonde girl trusts in everyone's potential. At that moment, the hero approaches with a smile and confirms that he'll be taking this entire test alone. The girl panics, thinking his calmness is absurd, and swears she's shaking with nerves. A bit confused, the protagonist tries to understand the reason for their fear, since there are many strong students there. The three youths stare at their classmate in shock, thinking he's a huge exception to the normal rule. Looking at the group, the blonde girl asks if the hero also thinks the boys are strong, and he confirms it. The boy praises the leader's judgment, stating that she gathered the best students in the entire class. With a finger raised, the fighter guarantees that with good offense and defense, their test will be easy. Suddenly, the redhead woman appears in style and notices that the students have formed their teams. The instructor praises their tactic, since not everyone has mastered their weapons, and announces that the event is about to begin. Holding the shiny object, the professor reminds them that their mission is to survive for 1 month on the mountain. She points out that they just need to have the little magic crystal in their hands on the final day to pass the trial. However, the redhead leaves a somber warning, explaining that all the crystals in the test are exactly the same. With a cold look, our hero gets the message and realizes that stealing is totally fair game. The woman points her finger and says that right after they go in, the upperclassmen will begin the hunt. In the shadows, the older students lurk and laugh, thinking that taking things from the rookies will be very easy. Hearing this, the small squad gulps, feeling the immense pressure of the challenge approaching. Without wasting any time, the beautiful woman swings her arm forcefully and shouts, ordering the test to begin. In that instant, a huge crowd of kids runs desperately into the great forest. Running ahead, the blonde girl demands that her partner survive, and the hero wishes them good luck. The young leader calls her squad, and the small group moves forward together, ready to face the danger. But our protagonist decides to stay put near the professor, simply waving goodbye to his friends. The instructor looks at him, confused, warning him that he should go too, and the boy agrees, laughing at the situation. The boy apologizes, saying he got distracted, and the woman notices that he doesn't feel any fear. Walking in a relaxed manner, the hero says his goodbyes, and the professor finds his attitude very strange. Soon, night falls over the mountains, and the atmosphere at the camp grows colder and more tense. One of the guards crosses his arms and comments to the redhead that this challenge was too harsh for them. The man explains that few children have awakened stars, and they have no combat experience. The proctor sighs, wondering who will pass the test, but the leader tells him to stop worrying. She assures him that the venomous creatures in the area are weak, not exceeding a 2-star level. With a confident smile, the woman vows that the class will be fine, and the guard calms down at her words. The redhead woman smiles in a very sinister way, thinking she'll release that dangerous something later. The proctor hears the professor muttering and asks what she said, but the woman smiles, hiding her idea. Just then, the redhead shouts an order, and the group of upperclassmen students rushes into the great forest. Watching the dust settle, the instructor gives a malicious smile, wondering how many will survive. In the middle of the dark woods, 2 upperclassmen run excitedly, eager to hunt the little freshman. Hidden in the bushes, an older girl aims her crossbow, noticing a target right in front of her. She smiles confidently upon seeing our protagonist walking alone and completely unprotected. Another upperclassman holding a large hammer appears, laughing and thinking the freshman's attitude is just foolish. With a predator's gaze, the archer aims carefully and prepares to strike without any mercy. Without losing a single second, the upperclassman fires a super fast arrow straight at her target. The projectile cuts through the wind, passing through branches and flying straight towards the young hero's face. But to the upperclassman's total despair, a hand appears, catching the arrow in mid-air with extreme firmness. With a giant smile on his face, our protagonist excitedly states that he was waiting for them. The three older students are completely in shock, unable to understand what the boy just said. Before they can even think, the boy dashes forward, closing the distance and terrifying the small group. Showing a wild expression, the young fighter invites them all to play together there in the woods. Meanwhile, in another corner of the forest, a poisonous frog suddenly leaps out to attack the blue-haired boy. Realizing the immense danger, his friend draws her sword and decides to act fast, moving with determination. With a flawless move, the young warrior slices the disgusting monster in two in the blink of an eye. But she doesn't notice another creature attacking from the trees, landing right on her back. At that moment, the shield-bearing companion appears in front, defending against the creature's fierce impact. Immediately after, the boy attacks, spinning his body and using his sword to strike back with great force. The blow lands squarely, sending the creature to the ground, defeated, while the boy breathes a sigh of relief. Nearby, the blue-haired partner uses his spear to pierce another animal, making his friend very proud. The trio regroups near the carcasses, and the swordswoman highlights their great teamwork. Turning their heads, the group is amazed to see the blonde leader standing casually in front of a pile of monsters. The group praises the warrior, and she smiles shyly, reminding them that it's all easy because she's a two-star fighter. The leader then notices her colleagues' progress, as the boy with the shield and the swordswoman have awakened their first star, but the spear-wielding young man hangs his head sadly because he hasn't yet achieved the same feat. Seeing their colleagues' anguish, his friends offer support, telling him he'll surely get strong very soon. The team leader also approaches, praising his immense courage in dealing with the venomous enemies. She remembers the good training he did with the hero and tells him to be patient, which moves the blue-haired boy deeply. Feeling the mood gradually change, the blonde fighter looks at the sky, noting that it's better to head back to base. The sun begins to set slowly, coloring the entire dangerous mountain with a beautiful, bright orange hue. While walking through the dense darkness of the forest, the youths hear a strange noise coming from the bushes. Everyone immediately stops walking, and the small team stares into the dark woods with great apprehension. The blonde girl's expression changes, her face hardening with anger as she asks what that intruder is doing in their territory. Soon, a boot emerges from the woods, breaking the tense silence with a voice full of irony. The three young ones are startled, instantly recognizing who is spying on them in the great forest. A much older boy appears, smiling maliciously, knowing that his clever disguise has been discovered. The blue-haired girl asks if he's from the upper class and came to take their crystals, and he agrees with a laugh. The upperclassman proudly displays his two-star aura and comments that he didn't expect it to be like as base. Firmly, the blonde leader points her greatsword and warns him that he'll never be able to win alone. But with a malicious look, the boy gives a smirk and asks who said he was there alone. In that instant, three more older students emerge from the shadows, leaving the small squad terrified. The blonde warrior breaks into a cold sweat, realizing it will be very difficult to fight while protecting her three companions. Just then, one of the adversaries firmly grips the hilt of his sword, preparing to launch a powerful attack. Angrily drawing his weapon, the upperclassman yells for the little kids to just surrender quietly. However, the leader leaps with agility and attacks with her heavy sword, causing a great impact in the air. Showing all her grit, the blonde girl unleashes a strong energy and charges forward, shouting to protect her team. Meanwhile, the blue-haired girl crosses swords with another upperclassman and tells her friends to hang in there. Nearby, the boy with the shield defends against a strong spear attack, using all his body's strength. The spear-wielding boy is also under a lot of pressure, trying to withstand the harsh blows with great difficulty. The enemy attacks mercilessly with a sword and yells for the rookie to hand over his crystal right now. In a flashback, the frightened colleague wonders what the method is for defeating stronger fighters. Sitting on the ground, the boy explains that he hasn't awakened his star yet and is very afraid of being attacked. The protagonist clenches his fists excitedly and just tells him to give up, leaving his partner shocked. Looking at the landscape, the boy explains that without stars, it's impossible to beat someone at a much higher level. Confused by the explanation, the blue-haired colleague listens intently, trying to understand that logic. The hero raises his fingers, reminding him that the dangers on the mountain are at most a 2-star level. With a nice smile, the fighter guarantees there's a simple way, and his friend asks what the secret would be. The young man is told the technique is to simply exploit an opening, as that can turn the tide against enemies. Amazed, the boy asks how he would find this opening, and his companion replies that he must endure. With a sharp gaze, the protagonist advises that his partner must endure taking hits until the rival makes a mistake. The boy is startled, and his friend points out that being very weak makes it impossible to create your own advantage. Gripping his clothes tightly, the blue-haired colleague breaks into a cold sweat and asks if he can really endure all that pain. The fighter warns him very seriously that enduring is a must, or else victory will be a pointless dream. Hearing the harsh words, the young man finally understands the weight of the advice and accepts the difficult reality. Pointing his finger, the hero assures him that against regular people, his friend can hold his own, and asks him to calm down. The companion lowers his head, very discouraged, and our protagonist notices that he has no confidence. Annoyed, the fighter shouts, telling his colleague to believe in himself more so he can become much stronger. With his finger pointed forward, the experienced friend decides to pass on one last essential piece of advice to the boy. Showing a nice smile, the hero excitedly tells his colleague to just not overthink it during the battle. He explains that there's no need to calculate anything, but rather to just be patient until the enemy completely lowers their guard. At that, the boy imagines himself charging forward and driving his spear forcefully into the enemy's opening. The protagonist pokes his partner's chest, confirming that this is the right way to defeat someone strong. Back in the present, the enemy brutally attacks the shield, calling our poor rookie very stubborn. Being pushed back, the spear-wielding boy remembers the advice and focuses on just surviving the blows. Even while trembling and dripping with sweat, the freshman clenches his teeth, maintaining a fierce and very brave expression. Annoyed, the upperclassman leaps, delivering a violent overhead attack, while the rookie blocks it firmly. The enemy attacks furiously, falling from the sky and telling the rookie to give up once and for all. But the blue-haired boy grips his spear tightly, showing a look full of determination. At that moment, a strong blue light shines intensely in the middle of the dangerous battle. Using all his strength, the boy fires a blast of pure energy straight ahead. The precise attack hits the rival's opening, sending the upperclassman flying in an instant. Completely in shock, the older boy spits, finding that absolutely impossible. Panting, the young fighter stands tall, facing his fallen and defeated adversary on the ground. At that moment, the chest of his uniform glows, revealing the mark of a newly earned star. On the other side, the blonde warrior smiles, noticing that her great friend managed to win. Her enemy shouts in anger, not accepting defeat to someone at the same level as him. With that, the leader leaps and crushes her rival with a golden strike of immense destructive power. She remembers the hero's advice about using axe techniques with her heavy sword. The brutal impact finishes the adversary, leaving the upperclassman completely out of commission. Nearby, another upperclassman panics, seeing his total defeat approaching. The swordswoman attacks swiftly with her weapon, ending the confrontation once and for all. With the area clear, the group's leader runs over leaving her knocked out enemy behind. Arriving near her friends, the blonde girl asks if they are all okay after the tough ordeal. The spear-wielding boy blushes, very surprised to see the beautiful smile of his great leader. The entire small team celebrates their victory with great joy, forgetting their earlier fear. The leader congratulates her blue-haired colleague on his new star, and he thanks her, crying with emotion. She smiles in relief, noticing that all her friends have now become much stronger. Looking at the sky, the leader trusts in their strength and wonders how our hero is doing. In another very dark part of the forest, an atmosphere of terror completely dominates the area. One of the upperclassmen runs desperately, trying to save his own life from a great threat. An older girl cries in panic, begging the monster not to come near her. Amidst the fallen bodies, our protagonist walks as the group flees in terror. Crying hard, the female student runs, calling for help and wondering what kind of creature that is. Without any mercy, the boy grabs one of the rivals by the foot, as if he were just a doll. With a terrifying smile, the fighter holds a large snake, leaving the upperclassman in shock. Laughing loudly, the boy asks if there's anyone left to play with him there. The students run, thinking the freshman is crazy, and wonder why they've become the prey in the test. Just then, one of the guys trips badly on the ground, remembering that they were supposed to be the predators. The boy laughs nervously as he sees the little monster approach, saying he's tired of tag. Showing glowing eyes, the young man extends his hand and tells the upperclassman to get up and fight. The older boy faces that dark aura and panics, feeling pure fear. Trembling from head to toe, the upperclassman lets out a sharp scream, completely overcome by terror. The fear is so great that the rival faints on the spot, and the hero lets out a frustrated sigh. Annoyed, the boy complains about their cowardice, since they were so eager to hunt the rookies before. Then, the protagonist looks to the side, saying that a mysterious someone should be approaching. Walking through the woods, the boy laughs excitedly, announcing that he'll continue his brutal game. Using branches and leaves, one of the inspectors completely conceals his presence, spying from a distance. Hidden in the dark, the man watches in horror, unable to believe what his own eyes were seeing. Sensing his presence being noticed, the proctor is even more startled by the boy's absurd potential. Fearing the worst, the guard reflects, breaking into a cold sweat, and concludes that he needs to report this immediately. The next day at the camp, the redhead woman receives her proctor, asking for the latest news. He responds directly, revealing that many 7-year-old students are already out of commission. Surprised by the high elimination rate, she wants to know about the older students, and the guard says they are on the run. The man's report leaves his colleague and the other instructors at the camp even more terrified. The inspector isn't ashamed to tell the truth, but the guards tremble at the shocking news. With her arms crossed, the leader demands to know what kind of monster the upperclassmen are running from. The instruction for the area was to only have weak things, but the proctor points out that they're fleeing from siege. In a dark forest, the scene returns to the protagonist running excitedly after the upperclassmen. Everyone at the base is stunned, wondering if it's not absurd for the hunters to become the prey. Worried, the man states that the hero's attitude is unprecedented, but fears the master's reaction. His aura completely ablaze, the boy frightens the proctor, who swears he's seeing an absolute monster. The redhead agrees that the boy is a prodigy of strength, but remembers how strange he seemed at the beginning. Tapping her chin, the instructor realizes the irony of the boy, who pretended to be relaxed just to attack. She notes that he was the true predator, letting his prey play while the weather was still good. Without further ado, a loud sound of chains cuts through the silence, surprising everyone who hears it. The instructor gives a malicious smile, because her terrifying delivery was finally there. Feeling a strong chill, the proctor raises his voice worriedly, fearing the woman's huge mistake. The area leader then comforts her colleague, firmly assuring him that the great monster has been properly adjusted. She explains that the creature was configured to injure those who exude great power, as if they were of that class. Choking on the report, her colleague discovers that the huge monster was the real final test for that boy. A tremendous cage hiding that mystery highlights everyone's terror. while the redhead simply ignores it. Looking back, the camp leader gives the final order, authorizing the great gate to be opened. Returning to the feared mountain forest, the dawn illuminates the youths who are still walking. But the boy in the group stops, feeling the ground vibrate as he looks down in astonishment. His shield-bearing colleague confirms it, breaking into a cold sweat, fearing it's just another upperclassman in pursuit. The blue-haired boy disagrees, pointing forward and saying he believes it's another huge monster hidden in the jungle. Soon it begins to rain amidst the fog, drenching the boys and increasing their great fear. With an immense roar and ferocious steps, a huge stone creature emerges, knocking down the entire forest in its path. Greatly concerned, the blonde girl yells for her team to run fast, because the thing was massive. Suddenly, the team is thrown far away in an instant by a thunderous punch, causing a lot of destruction. Coughing hard from the impact, the young woman points in fear, warning that the monster is already coming for them. On the other side, the spear-wielding boy holds his weapon, sweating bullets, thinking a golem of that level would be unbeatable. Revealing its rocky and very frightening face, the great creature exudes an immense, fierce, reddish light. Walking alone and bored in the forest, our young hero reflects, thinking the event would be easy. Sitting casually on a huge pile of defeated upperclassmen and monsters, the dark-haired freshman lets out a sigh. Looking at the fallen kids, the boy rests his chin on his hand, frustrated because the great test was far too easy. Showing a super beautiful landscape, a new morning illuminates the entire enormous, dangerous mountain. Noticing a stranger monster, the protagonist jumps down from his mountain of defeated foes. Looking to the side, he notes that little monsters of this class haven't appeared in over 1,000 years. The young man gets curious, wondering why it would appear right there, since it was something for the professors to handle. He concludes that the instructors released the little monster on purpose, wondering what they wanted with it. With a huge smile on his face, the protagonist gets excited, thinking the event has finally gotten fun. All fired up, he dashes forward at high speed, wanting to fight the three-star-class beast. In the meantime, his swordswoman friend attacks the giant stone monster with all her great fury. The impact of the sword hits the stone beast, but the monster doesn't even move a millimeter back. The shield-bearing partner backs away in terror, not understanding how the girl didn't even leave a scratch on the beast. Advancing without any fear, the boy uses all his strength, hitting his shield with great anger. Seeing that it caused no damage, the blonde leader moves away, realizing that this level was super dangerous. Taking some distance, the warrior unleashes a new, super fast magic attack she calls lightning. The blow hits the creature, causing only a crack, and the leader notes she can only damage its shell. Barely breaking a sweat, the leader gets a cold chill, realizing that creature is just shy of a 2-star class. Standing still, the young blue-haired girl despairs, asking her blonde companion in fear what they should do. The sword girl decides to act as a decoy, telling the trio to run, but her friend doesn't want to abandon her partner. Gripping her weapon tightly, the girl calmly explains that if they stay, they'll only get in the way of her strategy. But before they could finish their conversation, the huge creature focuses on its target, letting out a thick smoke from its mouth. Sweating profusely, the leader admits to her friend that none of them would be able to put a decent scratch on the beast. Clenching his fists with all his immense determination, the boy with the shield steps in front of his partner. Startled by his action, she asks her friend what he's doing and doesn't understand his strange stubbornness. The two companions announce together that they won't run and will help the leader with whatever they need to do. Facing the immense golem, the three of them look forward, willing to face this tough challenge all together. Very happy with their good attitude, the blonde girl gives a small smile, accepting that they'll fight together. Preparing to advance, the young man with the shield shouts with determination as they get into their positions. The blonde girl draws in energy, concentrating it all in her sword as she glares with a deadly look, ready to fight. With enormous brutality, she launches a gigantic magic attack, wanting to split the golem in two. However, the monster takes the super strike without feeling a single scratch, leaving the group of rookies in shock. Defending his companions, the boy with the shield endures a heavy frontal attack, holding on tight. Trembling from the harsh impact, he feels his arms weakening but tries not to retreat a single centimeter. Quickly, the swordswoman and the blue-haired boy attack the monster, wanting to help amidst the onslaught. While they distract the big creature, the leader jumps very high, ready to deliver her next big blow. Concentrating an enormous power in her sword, the blonde girl shouts with a tremendous golden determination. Then, the leader's attack comes down, fiercely driving a sword into it and unleashing an overwhelming power. A huge boom echoes throughout the dense forest, destroying many of the large trees nearby. The others watch in fear at the enormous explosion, hoping it was the final blow. Exhausted from the huge effort, the girl breathes with extreme difficulty, almost falling to her knees. The blue-haired boy worries about his friend with the shield, but he soon appears, supported by the girl beside him. With everyone okay, the group breathes a sigh of relief, wanting to return to base, but a terrible noise approaches. Menacingly, the creature's hand descends in a devastating punch, while the blue-haired boy defends with his spear. The golem grabs the blonde girl with crushing force, making her gasp for air as the blue-haired boy shouts. In great pain, the leader closes her eyes, admitting her big mistake for having lowered her guard. Shocked, her blue-haired friend runs to help, saying she can't believe the golem withstood the blow. Desperate, the spear-wielding young man runs forward, shouting for the huge monster to let his partner go. In the blink of an eye, the huge stone beast throws the blonde girl far away, launching her body against a tree. All her friends scream the blonde's name in terror, thinking that was the end for their brave leader. From the brutality of the throw, her body breaks an entire tree trunk, causing a great gust of wind. The leader falls injured, and everyone runs towards her while the golem continues to pound the ground. The huge monster roars deafeningly, using its immense body to smash the ground. Hurriedly, the team rescues their leader and runs with her, injured, wondering where that beast came from. In the midst of the immense confusion, a very excited and laughing voice echoes, catching everyone's attention. Their eyes widening, the team partners shout, perplexed and relieved, upon hearing their friend's name. Our protagonist lands in a very cute pose, jokingly asking what that rock was. Looking up, the hero recalls that he felt something bad earlier when he saw that huge lightning flash. Thrilled by the glow, he recognized the energy technique and ran desperately towards the battle. During his run, he worriedly wondered how long the team could hold out against a 3-star. Determined to get there, the hero clenched his fists, focusing all his power to use the skill he had learned. Concentrating the force in his hands, the boy dug his fingers into the ground, wanting to test his explosive magic. In a brutal impulse, the magic destroyed the earth and launched the fighter, breaking everything in his path. Flying low, the protagonist let out an insane roar, leaving an absurd trail of destruction behind him. Breaking countless trees with just his own body, the beast cut through the air like a true rocket. Smiling, the boy pats his own head proudly, thinking the technique suited his body perfectly. The magic of the dragon arts he read about was seen only as very simple and pure movements. The boy admires the strength he's gained, excitedly stating that his body has become a perfect weapon for attacks. But focusing his attention, the fighter returns to the danger, realizing he had no time to lose. Bleeding quite a bit, the blonde leader looks at him, sighing with relief and surprise, along with her blue-haired friend. With a huge smile on his face, the protagonist strikes a cool pose, checking if everyone was okay. Anxiously, the blue-haired girl points to the stone golem, warning the hero of the immense danger he was in. Finding the giant beast amusing, the warrior jokes and comments that he's never seen a living pile of rocks. Ignoring his presence, the huge monster continues its attack, punching the ground and kicking up a cloud of dust. Analyzing the monster's heavy shell, the hero understands that simple attacks wouldn't be able to pierce it. With a dangerous smile, the fighter states that winning easily would be super boring and advances on the golem. Watching her friend run, the leader breathes warily and remarks that he was always very reckless. Getting close, the warrior faces off with the giant beast, which brings both of its large hands down on him with full force. Looking up, the hero puffs out his chest, realizing that the golem's strength was indeed something terrifying. With a swift leap, the monster punches the ground, trying to crush him with immense force and speed. Smashing the ground, the massive punch kicks up huge chunks of earth, creating a large crater. With his eyes glowing brightly, the boy gives an insane smile, yelling for all his friends to fall back. The blonde leader runs, supported by everyone, agreeing with the dangerous request, seeing that he was going to fight seriously. Landing on the ground right after the punch, the protagonist shows a determined smile and doesn't back down. Displaying a flaming aura, the hero goes on the offensive, attacking the fierce, rocky monster. Dashing forward, the young man prepares himself, stating that he would test the inner toughness of that huge beast. Nearing the creature, the fighter does a jump, flipping backward with enormous power ready in his leg. The boy's leg hits the beast, creating a flash of massive power as he declares it the first dragon art. A great explosion of light erupts, tearing the golem in half as the hero relentlessly focuses his attack. Stopping on the ground, grinning from ear to ear, the boy celebrates, noticing that his crazy plan worked. With the forest glowing in the background from the great energy released, the warrior finds it all marvelous. Just then, time rewinds to the redhead instructor shouting and confirming with the proctors what the test rule was. Laughing hard, the professor claims they will redo the test because they were the ones who got taken from by a single rookie. Resuming a serious posture, the instructor turns and sighs, telling the boy to wipe that smug look off his face. In front of two large closed doors, the pair stops next to the guards and awaits the moment of their grand entrance. With her hands on her hips, she again asks him to focus, as they were about to face the master himself. At that moment, the hero calmly recalls the immense terror this man caused his many adversaries. Terrified by the master's violent past, she warns that she doesn't want to see her best student become a victim. Soon, the handle turns with a creak, and our boy puffs out his chest, ready to face the man. They come face to face with two family proctors, protecting the other door with care and great determination. Holding the swords at their waists, the guards hear the redhead woman's footsteps asking for authorization to pass. Entering the grand hall, the woman opens her mouth, apologizing for the interruption as the hero walks in. The huge room is filled with magic books, while the protagonist reflects on his attitude in front of the leader. Showing his huge angry face, the lord sits in a large golden chair with a pen in his hand. The hero bows slightly, showing great respect for that human monster in all his immense glory. Bored, the freshman remains very neutral, saying he no longer cares for those questions full of beating around the bush. Surprised and ticked off by the kid's enormous audacity and lack of respect, the chief's pen trembles with irritation. Relaxed in his casual way, the hero claims that since they only said to survive, he saw no restrictions. Desperate, the instructor cries, gulping, as she turns to give him a major scolding. Horrified by his lack of manners, the professor throws her arms down and shouts, questioning what he was thinking. Hidden in the shadow, the Lord's malevolent essence begins to leak out, showing an infernal image. Unable to withstand the weight of this crazy energy, the redhead woman doubles over, feeling her own stomach churn. Showing he is unfazed by that oppressive monstrosity, the young man just calmly looks around the place. Huffing with irritation, the little fighter asks the leader not to make threats, because it's an annoying attitude for a strong guy. Completely shocked by this extreme bravery, the master's stern face freezes, his expression widening even more. With their knees on the floor, the pair faces the master as the boy asks if the whole lecture was just about that. Taking all the focus, the freshman doesn't tremble, questioning the big revelation about fighting with those guys. Extremely nervous, the white-haired lord unloads, wanting to know the boy's reasons for becoming such a prodigy. With an immense silence filling the room, our young man turns to the side, calmly thinking about his reason. Excited about the answer to be given, the hero just raises his voice, laughing and saying he was just strong for no reason. Their eyes falling silent at this extremely absurd revelation, The pair finally reflects without fear. Accepting this huge nonsense, the leader admits he was very wrong, offering our boy a fine reward. Distraught, the instructor screams out in pure desperation, asking the master what on earth was happening. Looking at the beautiful morning light, he explains everything about that prize and the beautiful books within. The gleaming items attract attention, as that place holds very precious things from all over the world. An inspector warns that the Eldragon family's things were very secret, and that no one could see or take them. The boy pays no attention, asking to take everything, and leaving the beautiful redhead red with so much anger. But ignoring all his craziness, the chief wags his fingers towards the exit and tells them to go already. Taking quick steps, the redhead grabs the boy and pulls, wanting to get him away from this long talk. Forcing his arms slightly, she says she's flattered and takes the poor guy away before the scolding. In the meantime, the boy digs in his heels while being dragged and hears the leader make a nice invitation. Staring with a frightening expression, the boy says that with these annoying rules, he won't get good at this. A flash of light fills the entire room, leaving the leader stunned as he thinks about his bold words. In the background, hallucinations seem to fly like red dragons, wanting to play with the golden beast. Slamming the door quickly, the instructor cuts off the strange atmosphere, saying the tests are over, showing the glow in the landscape. The castle was absurdly huge for just one man who wanted peace. Tapping her nails near the room's door, she yells, asking what the boy's idea was with that. Mustering enormous courage, he doesn't react to all the shouting, just remembering how boring it was. He agrees with the talk, saying there was no reason to be too affectionate, since he was an absent father. With a hand on her chest, she raises her fingers, curious about the sheer audacity of his words. Scenes of the castle appear, showing the entire huge and shiny place. Trying to understand that boy, puffing out his chest, the boy responds, stating there's no great mystery there in his life. The instructor lets out a long sigh, maintaining her calm and beautiful pose without saying much. Reflecting on the absurd power the young man must wield, the professor recalls the stories that surrounded them. Completely silent, she internally questions the limit to which the family would let things continue this way. Tapping her own boots, she walks, promising to look up that freshman's file as soon as she could. Later, she guides the boy, asking what he will choose from all that grand magical treasure. Arriving in the room, he sees how wonderful the place is, noting that it had a very awesome collection. Placing his thumb near his neck, the boy replies that he has his eye on a bunch of magic books. Curious about the knowledge he lost over time, he points his hand and grumbles, missing his old fights. His friends arrive, smiling broadly, and the blonde girl jokes with him, asking if her partner was okay standing there. Jumping excitedly, the blue-haired boy raises his fists, cheerfully stating that he loved the test's gift. Seeing everyone arrive, the young man agrees, not believing the entire base was there at the big door. A guard instructs and explains that the rules of the place were strict, but nothing too harsh on the group. Catching his attention, his partner points to the hero, saying she'd prefer the other reward he won. With a cute laugh, the warrior states he wants the sacred manuscripts to understand all the mystery in the air. He analyzes how the place can help with everything, pointing out there's a lot of good stuff in the entire huge building. Showing all her confidence in him, the girl laughs, believing in the young man who helped her in great danger before. A guard returns to give the prizes guidelines, telling them to watch the clocks and not stay all day. Dashing off, the entire team agrees, ready to see the surprises and the magical secrets. A friend teaches them to focus on reading and the whole plan so they would have maximum time without any mess. Arriving with a sigh, our hero assesses the many shelves filled with countless great tales. Eyeing the shining stars, a blue-haired colleague points out the decorations, admiring the beautiful event. Looking at the huge ceiling, the boy is impressed with the grandeur of the whole shining place. Smiling broadly, the hero comments that he wants to see if there's any useful knowledge around. Walking through the immense corridors, he confesses that this great library could be very surprising. Completely in shock, The protagonist screams, frightened, wanting to understand what that madness was. Sitting on the floor, the young man can't believe the immense number of floating books falling in front of him. Hiding behind a book, the freshman despairs at seeing so much magical information he didn't understand. Lying on the floor, the boy reflects on the long period of 1,000 years and how that world merged with another. Crawling on the floor, the hero reaches out his hand, focusing his total attention on a specific red book. The reading shows a large reddish dimensional rift that appeared, opening the way to chaos. The tale explains that bizarre monsters roam there, making people use special powers. With that, the noble Eldragon family began to fight these creatures alongside local warriors. The great bonds of battle formed the four powerful founders of that enormous current dynasty. Remembering the past, he notes that the boar monster and his colleague's electric aura came from the other world. Lying on his stomach, the freshman rests his face, relaxed, paying attention to what really mattered there. The book displays a shining image of magic, showing it to be a great technology from outside that world. Distraught, the young man shouts loudly, demanding to know where the book that teaches how to use that power was. Startled by the magic, the boy looks behind him, receiving a mysterious warning asking for complete silence. Staring down the dark corridor, he tries to understand how that floating voice had no presence. Crossing his arms, the hero deduces it's just a voice technique, since he didn't feel any other aura. At that moment, the boy hears a noise and sees a large, shining book flying in his direction. Terrified, the freshman cowers on the floor, seeing a crazy storm of books flying all over the room. Amazed by the power, the young man smiles widely, noticing the threads of energy moving things magically. Flying after the book, the protagonist shouts excitedly, demanding that the owner of the power show themselves. Hidden on the large balcony above, a mysterious man controls the golden energies in complete silence. Understanding nothing, the hero is quickly tied up by the luminous strings. Falling onto the wooden floor, spinning in the air, the poor guy screams as he's thrown out, since the place was closing. Passing through the large door, the boy flies like a puppet being thrown out of the library. Bouncing on the stones, the freshman slides across the floor, complaining about having met another annoying magic. Furious, the young man points his finger, cursing the wind, while his friends run over, worried by the scene. Hiding his embarrassment, he laughs nervously, blaming his excitement, and asks if they found anything good. Excited, his blue-haired friend holds a book on the spear of the clouds, thinking he learned an awesome technique. With a cute smile, the blue-haired girl shows off her manual for the sword of the gentle wind flowers. The blonde warrior proudly shows his two grimoires, focused on the style of the great shield dragon. Laughing in relief, the protagonist is happy to see that everyone was using easy techniques from his past. Turning his body, the young man extends his hand, wanting to know what his blonde colleague's combat choice was. She shows the heavy sword book, saying it was revised by the great 15th leader. With a serious face, the boy reflects on this guy's name, remembering the arts of the dragon's breath. Recalling the library, he thinks about how many old manuals had nice recent improvements. Staring into the void, the boy deduces it's the work of that old master, finding the whole plot fascinating. Giving a confident smile, the freshman just says that it was all really very interesting. Looking at the huge castle, the boy confesses he found everything boring at first, but is greatly looking forward to the future. 5 years pass quickly, showing the grand castle courtyard shining under the bright sunlight. With firm steps, someone approaches, walking through the courtyard and making a sound of surprise upon seeing something. The blonde girl asks where the hero went, and soon hears from a guard that everyone went to the training area. Sighing tiredly, the now older girl thanks him for the information, already imagining the mess that was going on. Arriving at the large dirt field, she sees the protagonist surrounded by his 3 friends, ready to fight. Maintaining a very confident posture, our young prodigy faces his fine squad with a fixed gaze. Meanwhile, in a huge, chic room with large, shining windows, a serious meeting was underway. Looking at some papers on the table, a voice questions if that would really be the emergence of a special rift. Standing in front of the huge table, the soldier confirms the suspicion, assuring there were no doubts about the event. The blue-haired commander explains there's an 80% chance of there being magic water inside. Resting his face on his hand, the Lord complains about the situation as the rift appeared in a very annoying location. The story shows that whoever drinks this liquid becomes a mage capable of using new, overpowered spells. With such power revealed, great brutal wars for territories with these rare sources soon began. Military strength began to be measured by magic, and unfortunately, the hero's family had no sources. Raising the luminous goblet, the story dictates that the only way to get the water was by conquering rifts. Facing his troops, the chief knows that his few mages are elite warriors trained in combat. Returning to the office, the chief notes the tension as the new hall appeared in a dense forest right on the border. Called the Dragon's Forest, that huge green field encroached on the territory of another base. Led by bigwigs in suits, the fierce Cerberus family owned the other side, calling the place Bountiful Hound. Opening the large map, the officer comments that the portal was in their area, but its size brought problems. Pointing to the drawing, he warns that the domain formed by the rift would easily invade enemy soil. Calmly showing the paper, the general agrees with the Lord, knowing that the idiot hounds would notice. Even with limited options, due to it being a bizarre rift, the pair knew they would need to fight for control. Crumpling the paper forcefully, the leader questions if they should act stealthily before their rivals notice. Completely serious, the soldier nods, accepting the Lord's order to summon everyone for a great, brutal test. Returning to the lively training, the little blonde crosses her arms, admiring how her colleagues were giving it their all. Standing with a great master's pose, the hero maintains his sharp gaze, feeling the strong energy. Without mercy, the trio launches their ultimate attacks, covering the boy with very destructive magics. Focusing his vision, the genius boy's eyes shine, ready to show what his pure effort was capable of. Moving his arms at a crazy speed, the freshman deflects and shatters each blow using only his fists. Smiling dangerously close to the blade, the protagonist praises their fine posture before giving a scolding. Facing the blue-haired boy, the young man says he was putting in too much force and ended up killing the spear's great fluidity. Looking at his sword-wielding colleague, the hero points out that focusing too much on speed destroyed all her balance. Turning his face to the boy with the shield, the prodigy confesses that his raw defense was actually good. Beckoning them with his hands, the freshman complains about the blonde colleague's lack of offense and tells them all to come again. Watching from afar, the instructor is thrilled with the incredible scene, finding it all an insanely crazy sight. In disbelief, the woman thinks it's crazy that the boy is tanking those beautiful spells without using a single drop of aura. With an absurd block using his arm, the protagonist shouts that this was all the purest and most beautiful training. Flexing, the boy shows off his very ripped physique, proving that the training had made him as hard as a rock. The blonde girl puts a hand on her head, complaining that the boy should stop fighting while they're talking. The two students stop their attacks, panting and impressed with the absurd defense without using aura. Getting very serious, the girl warns that the prodigy isn't human, remembering his monster nickname. Launching the trio far away with a single blow, the hero asks if the young woman came to train or to pass on a message. Crossing her arms, the warrior warns that soon they will face students from the other areas. Hearing this, the blue-haired boy and his colleagues' eyes widen in fear, knowing that day would inevitably come. Raising her hands, the little blonde confesses she doesn't know many details about their next test. Curious, the protagonist points his finger, wanting to know where she gets so much information. The woman explains that she just has to observe the professors, but the boy says he never paid much attention to that. Sighing, the warrior tells him to be very careful, reminding him of a certain dangerous rival from the West Wing. Walking slowly, the genius boy thinks about this other strong candidate for leader besides the two of them. With a very excited smile, the freshman just mutters that he finds it all very interesting and waits eagerly. A few days pass, and the grand castle courtyard soon fills with various students gathered in the area. In the middle of the crowd, the boys break into a cold sweat, whispering fearfully about the real reason they were all there. Leaning against the old stone walls, some upperclassmen just await the big announcement in pure silence. Observing his surroundings, the prodigy notices that they gathered all the years, and the blonde girl confirms his great suspicion. Just then, a loud noise catches everyone's attention, making the warriors look towards the main entrance. With firm steps, a beautiful woman with pink hair appears, telling everyone to shut their mouths. Feeling the commander's strong presence, the kids obey instantly, swallowing hard with so much fear. Satisfied with the peace, the Cape Chief announces that in exactly 3 days, a big event would begin there. Maintaining her pose, the superior reveals that they will face the strong students from the other bases in the area. With a wide smile, the protagonist gets very excited about the idea, while his colleague trembles with fear. Pointing her hand forward, the commander dictates the rules, demanding full force in the upcoming duels. In the crowd, the cadets break into a cold sweat, commenting that fights like this only happened in their big final exam. Without giving many details, the pink-haired woman just promises a very special mission for the grand winners. His golden eyes shining, the young prodigy is interested right away, imagining it's something very valuable. The woman explains that it will be a grand tournament with 7 strong representatives chosen from each area. Questioning the choice, the leader soon warns that the fighters will come from all the classes present in the courtyard. Hearing the rule, one of the upperclassmen gets indignant, thinking it's absurd to put little kids in this tournament. With a big ego, the guy claims that the rookies are nothing but a bunch of useless kids, being too weak to fight. Turning her back, the pink-haired woman waves her hand, not caring about the words, and tells everyone to decide on the team quickly. Catching their attention, the upperclassman imposes an order, saying that the older students will take all those spots. Stomping her foot, the little blonde steps forward, blocking the guy's plan by ensuring she has the right to fight. With a mocking smile, the older boy recognizes the noble, finding her great stubbornness very amusing. Keeping her calm, the warrior corrects the loudmouth, reminding him that what mattered there was only strength. Stomping on the dirt ground, a beautiful energy shines, quickly covering the young fighter's entire body. Displaying the magic, the little blonde reveals 3 radiant stars on her chest, smiling in a very intimidating way. The upperclassman is shocked by the freshman's strong power, while the hero accepts the choice based on strength. Pressuring her rival, the girl asks if he was that strong, making the bully retreat, sweating bullets. Trying to get away, the coward warns that she was an exception, as the other rookies were still too weak. Furious, the upperclassman points his finger, cursing the boy, but the hero just repeats that he's too noisy. Keeping his cool, the young man explains that the upperclassmen think the freshmen are trash and proposes an insane idea. With a maniacal smile and a fiery aura, the hero suggests that everyone fight until only the 7 strongest remain. Frightened, the upperclassman refuses the idea, finding it too violent, but the prodigy quickly ignores the complaints. Gesturing, the freshman suggests holding an open preliminary for any student who wants to fight in the tournament. With a confident smile, the little blonde agrees with the idea, challenging the courage of the older students. Crossing his arms, the rival leader accepts the challenge, even though he thinks it's all a big waste of time. Looking back excitedly, the protagonist calls his friends, wanting them to enter the dispute too. Calling each one by name, the hero summons the trio, who are completely shocked by the great madness. Trembling with fear, the blue boy questions if they're going to fight against the older students, and the young man confirms everything. Not understanding their fear, the freshman remembers their intense training, while the girl feels a strong pressure. Just then, the noble blonde tries to call more people, but the rookies break into a cold sweat, knowing they don't stand a chance. Sighing, the prodigy is disappointed by their lack of courage, as facing strong opponents teaches so much. Resting his face on his hand, the genius boy decides to just observe the true power of the upperclassmen on the field. Quite annoyed, The older leader grinds his teeth, ready to show the true strength of a senior. Holding a huge sword on his back, a big guy scoffs at the stubborn attitude of the weak children. Laughing a lot, the older students agree to go easy, while the hero's group sweats bullets from the commotion. Holding his spear, the blue-haired boy confesses he's terrified to fight against strong third-year guys. With a serene smile, the freshman reminds them that they all trained like crazy for the last 5 years with him. Pointing his finger with confidence, the boy encourages the group, asking them to believe in themselves more. Feeling the motivation hit hard, the trio grips their large weapons tightly, accepting the dangerous challenge. Losing his patience, the big guy advances with his heavy sword, promising to put everyone in their proper place. Watching from the sidelines, the other students are shocked and confused by all the madness happening there. Quickly, the blue-haired boy defeats the bully with ease and wonders if that guy was really that strong. Crossing his arms, very satisfied, the young warrior praises the incredible performance of his worthy team. Observing the fight, the hero praises the spear-wielding boy, noting how good he got at deflecting rival blows. Looking to the side, the protagonist cheers for his colleague's incredible technique of rapid flower cuts. Focusing on the blonde boy, the prodigy admires his great fluidity in switching from heavy defense to offense. With the field full of fallen bodies, the freshman states that the fine combat only increased the group's confidence. Spinning her long, shining blade, the noble blonde attacks the upperclassmen, proving she has become very strong. Seeing that complete massacre in the arena, the crowd that was just watching is left speechless in disbelief. Putting her giant sword on her shoulder, the beautiful girl stomps on the ground, masterfully ending the duel. Breaking into a cold sweat, the leader of the older group panics, not accepting defeat to little kids like that. Walking slowly, the hero stops in front of the coward and warns him that he's still greatly deluded. Unleashing power, the freshman raises his arm, warning that pure age and high rank mean nothing. Putting a finger to his lips, the genius young man imposes silence, stating that the weakest always falls in a real war. Refusing the harsh lesson, the bully shouts, pointing his finger and guaranteeing that total power comes from the stars. With a dangerous, killer smile, the boy runs a finger across his neck, reminding him that anyone can be taken down. Staring at the pure terror in the coward's eyes, the prodigy states that the great beauty of fighting is always winning. Completely furious, the guy throws his honor in the trash and threatens to attack with everything to avoid becoming a joke. Tired of so much talk, the boy calls his rival to the duel, wanting to see what he knows about martial arts. Extending his hand with a very intimidating look, the prodigy tells the coward to show the fruits of his hard training, grinding his teeth with pure rage. The older boy can't take the humiliation and immediately goes on the attack. With a great leap, the upperclassman tells him not to be underestimated, preparing a shining punch with a strength technique, dodging the punch with great ease. The genius boy counters the blow, taking the rival down with just one impact. Launching the big guy far away, the freshman maintains his intact pose, creating a gust of wind in the arena. With a nice, excited smile, the warrior gives a thumbs up, praising the losing guy's good training. Looking from afar, we see the bully kneeling on the ground, totally humiliated, while the victor remains standing, crossing her arms. The noble blonde agrees with the scene, finding it funny that he praised the guy after taking him down. Meanwhile, at the other training base, the courtyard is covered with defeated cadets groaning in great pain. Spinning a green blade in his hands, someone sighs deeply at how easy it was to take the guys down. Sitting on the back of a loser, the leader of the West Wing complains that everyone there is weak and useless. Turning his face, the snobbish young man rests on the defeated, while one of his soldiers approaches the area. Standing with her hands behind her back, the green-haired woman announces that the entire selection for that base was complete. Introducing the chosen ones, the story focuses on the firm gaze of one of the rookies qualified for the tournament. Resting his weapon on his shoulder, the leader notices something good and sees that the first-year cadet had 3 stars. With an excited smile, the chief praises the boy's great skill, promising to welcome him to his team. Breaking into a cold sweat, the cadet bows, thanking him emotionally for being recognized by his master so soon. With a cocky pose, the blue-haired boy lifts his face while his partner dictates that their base will never lose. Talking about the reward, the woman states that completing this very special mission would change everyone's course. Rising gloriously, the warrior leads his troop, aiming to take the top seat of that castle. With a gaze full of ambition, the lackey gives a malicious smile, greatly desiring prestige in his leader's wake. Focused on her work, the advisor approaches the chief, wanting to reveal some new and very interesting information. Whispering in his ear, the woman reveals that the noble blonde will be part of the official selection for the East Base. Annoyed by the gossip, the boy scratches his head, complaining about that annoying brat who always crosses his path. Leaving everything behind, the boy walks through the courtyard, guaranteeing that his side would crush the noble's talent. With a very excited smile, the faithful servant agrees with his words, already aiming to complete the special task. Spinning his blade in an exotic way, the blue-haired boy vows to prove his enormous talent to his entire family. With a malicious face, the selfish leader ends the conversation, vowing to take the highest throne once and for all. Inside a giant coliseum, a huge crowd of students gathers for the start of the long-awaited tournament. In the stands, the upperclassmen from the East Wing look down on the first years with a major air of superiority. Surprised by the number of people, the blue-haired boy comments that all the halls have gathered a lot of students there. With that, the young man says that the number of people is already quite reduced, which leaves the blonde girl confused. He then remembers that those who drop out are called pseudo-dragons, just as his father taught him. Seeing her friend's serious expression, the noble blonde girl notices that he is acting exactly like his father used to. But to cheer up the group, the girl says that they were chosen as representatives and should be proud. Suddenly, an upperclassman approaches and asks the protagonist why he is being so quiet and still. Crossing his arms, the hero explains that he was being quiet to gauge the power of all the students there. The upperclassman is very impressed and praises the young man for being able to do something so incredible. Kneeling before the genius, the former rival admits that things have changed a lot since their big fight. Excited, the upperclassmen run through the courtyard, assuring that their entire group has changed its old way of thinking. After the battle, the former leader understood that he is also part of that group, becoming a great ally. Shouting excitedly, the upperclassman now has great respect for the strongest, becoming a huge fan of the hero. Seeing the whole scene, the boy finds it all very strange but sees no problem with his rival's change of heart. Analyzing the overall power level, he notices that aside from his group, everyone else there is at the 3-star level. But suddenly, his glowing eye focuses on someone special, revealing that there are much stronger people there. The prodigy then notices a very confident guy, who seems to be one step ahead of the other students. Besides him, another purple-haired guy also shows a special power with his very snobbish gaze. At this, the leader of the West Wing is curious to see what special techniques will be used in this tournament. Seeing so many powerful opponents, the blue-haired young man puts a hand on his head, feeling the immense pressure. Out of nowhere, a tall, blonde woman jumps on the girl's back, excitedly shouting her full name. With the sudden noise, the protagonist turns his head to the side, curious about all the commotion. Squeezing her friend's face, the older girl asks if she's okay and if anyone has been bothering her. At this, one of the blonde girl's friends asks who that strange woman is who suddenly appeared. The girl then introduces her cousin, named Sandy Typhona, the daughter of the head of the great noble family. Upon hearing the girl's last name, the trio of first years are left with their jaws dropped, knowing she's from a major family. Then the cousin asks who those kids are, and the girl replies that they are all her companions. The woman thinks that's great but questions if they are truly real friends of her noble cousin. Releasing a powerful aura, the noblewoman doubts they have the ability to be partners with the future leader. Interjecting into the conversation, the protagonist assures her that everything will become clear once they start to fight. Seeing the young man The woman asks who he is, and the blonde girl introduces him as a candidate just like her. The woman then recognizes the boy as the outcast son from the rumors, leaving his friends in shock. With a mocking tone, the woman says she didn't imagine a simple outcast would still be around. Annoyed by her attitude, the girl complains that her cousin can't treat the other candidates that way. The noblewoman then says they aren't even at a 3-star level, but the hero warns her not to underestimate them. With her eyes glowing in anger, the woman insults him again, calling him an outcast with the blood of a family head. Staring at the young man with intense anger, the woman asks if he's really trying to give her advice. But keeping his cool, the young genius simply says it was just a warning, leaving the woman furious. Before the fight can start, another student approaches, waving his hand to try to calm both sides down. The representative from the North Wing appears, asking them not to cause trouble for the other teams there. At this, the blue-haired boy is shocked while the hero just turns his head with a very irritated look. The noble blonde girl tells the guy not to interfere, but he warns that the big battle is about to begin. In the stands, the students from the North Wing comment on the commotion happening down below. Suddenly, one of the army captains turns to the crowd, preparing to start the event. With a fiery aura, the captain shouts for attention, making all the students turn at once. With a focused gaze, the trio of first years prepares to hear the instructions for the grand tournament. At that moment, the blonde girl and her cousin also turn towards the center of the arena, attentive to the announcement. Side by side, the hero and the representative from the North smile, eager for the great competition to begin. Then, the captain of the Golden Dragon Troop introduces himself to everyone as the great instructor of that place. Standing in the middle of the arena, the captain officially declares that the great battle will now begin. He then explains that the competition will be an elimination tournament between the 4 annexes in 1-on-1 duels. The annex that defeats 4 opponents first will be the grand winner, and the fighting order cannot be changed. Finishing the rules, the captain warns that the order of the fighters is an important part of the strategy. In addition, those chosen in the tournament will receive a special mission, and the hero immediately smiles with interest. Whoever completes the task will make a great contribution to the noble family of the Empire's royal dragon. And that contribution is a huge step for any candidate to become the new head of the noble family. Now, to decide the matchups, the captain asks each representative to take a stone from inside the box. Being called first, the representative from the West Wing walks confidently to the center of the arena. Approaching the captain, the white-haired young man puts his hand in the box to grab one of the stones. With the stone in his hand, the young man stares at the item that will decide his team's future in the tournament. After he takes his stone, the captain tells the snobbish young man to return to his place in the arena. Seeing the young man up close, the noble blonde girl is a bit startled as she recognizes the student's face. Returning to his team, the West Wing's leader gives a malicious smile, full of confidence and ill intent. The hero then asks if she knows him, and the girl confirms that he is the successor she had mentioned. The young man's name is Vanille Fafnald El Dragon, one of the candidates for the position of head of the great family. With a confident smile, the protagonist comments that the West Wing has many strong warriors in general. Even though the others have trained well, he can feel the significant power difference from that team. Observing the rival team, the former upperclassman is surprised to see a face he hasn't seen in a long time. He then remembers the hero from the entrance exam and is very impressed by his hard training. Standing with an air of superiority, the West Wing team intimidates all the other students in the Coliseum. Quite furious, the upperclassman can't believe that Guy managed to get a spot on the West Wing team. The other students also recognize the boy and wonder why a dropout is there. Seeing the crowd's negative reaction, the blue-haired boy's friend asks if he's okay with this whole situation. Trembling nervously, the boy says he's fine but continues to stare at the rival group with great fear. Soon after, the representative from the North Wing is called, and the confident young man announces that it's his team's turn. Next, the captain calls the representative from the south wing to pick his stone and decide his fate. With a snobbish look, the boy from the south takes his stone, and the captain calls the last team from the east wing. The blonde girl nudges the hero and tells him they're calling him, but the boy is very confused and doesn't understand. She then says it's obvious the strongest would go, but he thinks the focus should be on the newer members. But the blonde girl reminds him they are the same age and pushes him forward, making him go without complaining. Outraged, the girl's cousin shouts, asking why the outcast is going instead of the noble candidate. The blonde girl explains that he is the strongest, but the older one doesn't accept it because he's not at a 3-star level. The woman then reminds her that this is a battle of succession, and the girl asks her to just trust them. With a confident smile, the young noblewoman assures her that all the members of her team are very strong. Ignoring the argument, the captain asks the representatives to put their power into the stones. The young genius holds the stone in his hand and prepares to channel his great energy into the object. All the other representatives do the same, and the stones begin to glow with very different colors. The guy from the west wing holds his red stone with a snobbish look, already thinking of himself as the grand champion. Just like the others, the hero's stone also begins to glow with a strong, intense blue light. With that, the captain announces that the first battle will be between the east and north annexes of the Colosseum. The second great battle will be fought between the powerful teams from the west and south wings of the academy. Looking to the side, the hero's team observes the fighters from the north wing, who look quite imposing. One of the older fighters stares at the rival group with a very intimidating look of pure hatred and contempt. Scared, the blue-haired boy asks if that guy is also a student, and the blonde girl confirms it with him. Very nervous, the girl can't believe she's going to face her cousin in the very first big battle. On the other side, the older girl warns that this is a good chance for her cousin to wake up to reality. Pointing at the girl, the woman guarantees she will crush the entire team, so she remembers her place. Releasing a great aura of lightning, the young woman accepts her cousin's challenge and heads into battle. Excited for the match, the hero greets his rival, saying he's looking forward to the great combat. Facing each other in the middle of the arena, the two representatives can't wait to finally be able to fight. Annoyed, the West Wing leader sits down and grabs his sword with a look of pure boredom and contempt. Meanwhile, the South Wing team watches the whole situation with a curious and slightly apprehensive look. The captain then officially announces the first battle between the East and North annexes of the Academy. With weapons in hand, the hero's team prepares for the first round of the Grand Selection Tournament. Clenching his fists, the former rival shouts that he will definitely secure a victory for his beloved team. But the blonde girl worries if he'll be okay, as the boy seems too nervous to fight. With the fighters in position, the captain asks if both sides are ready for the combat to begin. The former rival and his opponent face off in the middle of the arena, ready for a great exchange of blows. The captain then lowers his arm and gives the signal for the official start of the first battle of the tournament. With a loud war cry, the young man charges forward, preparing his first punch with great force. Crossing his arms, the prodigy watches the fight, very curious about the outcome of that first duel, but the boy quickly boasts that his victories are always absolute, which really irritates his friend. The hero turns his face back to the fight, trying to ignore his teammates' annoyed reaction. He then explains that, in terms of skill, the rival fighter isn't much different from his teammate. The girl agrees with the analysis but remembers that this is the first time they are fighting in front of everyone. Furthermore, the great pressure of representing the team could end up hindering their teammates' performance. With a confident smile, the genius knows that there is an exception to this rule of pressure and nervousness. The blonde girl's cousin and the representative from the north seem completely confident and without a hint of fear. He then notices that the two are already close to reaching the powerful and rare 4-star level. In addition, the blonde girl's cousin uses similar techniques, which will be a good experience for the girl. Suddenly, the fighter from the east wing falls to the ground, defeated, and the captain announces the north team's victory. In shock, The next fighter begins to tremble with fear, but the blonde girl tries to calm her teammate down. A short time later, the second confrontation also ends with a victory for the North Wing in the grand tournament. Devastated, the two losers apologize to their leader for getting carried away in the arena. Hurt and crying, the two feel bad about the loss, but the captain tells them not to worry. With an encouraging smile, the hero reminds them that this is a place for them to test their strength in combat. This lesson will serve as experience for their future on a real battlefield. But since the team has already lost twice, the next confrontation becomes even more important. Seeing his friend's nervousness, the boy tries to motivate him, but the blue-haired kid asks him not to make things worse. With his sword glowing, the upperclassman from the North Wing prepares for combat with an intimidating aura. The warrior's gaze leaves the blue-haired boy completely terrified of his next big opponent. Crying and trembling, the boy complains that he has never faced upperclassmen as scary as that one. Despite his fear, the boy prepares to fight while his leader takes a deep sigh at the situation. To calm the young man down, the hero asks what weapon his big, strong opponent is using. Looking at his rival, the boy notices that he uses a sword to fight, which makes him much calmer. With a confident smile, the prodigy tells him not to think about anything and to just focus on his rival's weapon. If the opponent lunges, he should parry. If he slashes upward, he should retreat. And if he attacks downward, he should advance. He just needs to concentrate on dealing with the opponent's weapon, just as he always did in training. With his eyes glowing, the blue-haired boy enters a state of total focus, preparing for the fight. Watching his friend, the hero notes that he still needs help to center himself, but has great focus. He then wonders how much this battle will make his teammate grow as a fighter. In the stands, the students from the North Wing mock the boy, thinking he has no chance against the upperclassmen. But with a serious and focused look, the boy prepares to show all his great potential in the arena. With both fighters in position, the captain gives the signal for the start of the third battle of the tournament. The upperclassman advances with his three-leaf sword, using a quick and direct attack on the boy. With his eyes sharply focused, the young man prepares to counter the powerful blow from his great opponent. Dodging the attack, the boy manages to narrowly evade the blade, which hits the arena floor. Furious about the dodge, the upperclassman yells that he won't escape and prepares his next big attack. Using his twin fangs technique, the fighter advances with a double attack on his rival. Watching the fight, the blue-haired boy's friend gets worried because the rival is getting too close to her teammate. But with a smile on his face, the hero tells her not to worry and to just watch the boy's eyes. With his eyes glowing blue, the boy is more focused than ever and ready for combat. Masterfully dodging the attacks, the young man evades every blow from his great adversary. Annoyed, the upperclassman uses his leaf storm dance to attack the boy from all sides. But with his eyes glowing white, the young man prepares to use his powerful spear technique. With clouds and water flowing around him, the young man prepares for his great counter-attack. Shocked by the boy's power, the upperclassman is left speechless upon seeing his rival's incredible technique. With his spear of water and clouds, the young man prepares to end the fight with a single, precise blow. Using his raging current strike, the young man charges full speed at his great opponent. The upperclassman is knocked flat on his back after taking the powerful, direct attack from his opponent. At this, the referee announces the end of the confrontation, declaring a great victory for the East Wing team. With his spear in hand, the blue-haired boy stands still, observing his strong adversary fallen in the huge arena. Letting out a breath, the boy finally relaxes and feels very grateful to have won that fight. Watching the scene, the hero breaks into a big smile, seeing his teammates' wonderful success. Then the whole team gathers with confident looks, ready to turn the tables once and for all. Starting with that fine first victory, the group managed to gain momentum and continue winning their fights. With her sword in hand, the blue-haired warrior also secures a victory in the fourth round of the event. Right after, the blonde boy with the shield shines in the arena and defeats his rival in the fifth combat. Arriving at the sixth match, The blonde swordswoman smiles, eager to finally be able to cross swords again. On the other side of the arena is her older cousin, who stares at her with a very serious and focused look. The upperclassman finds her team's losses strange, but the young blonde girl reminds her that she had already warned them about her strength. Sighing, the older woman admits that she really did underestimate her relative's companions. However, she soon releases a golden aura, warning that this isn't the main problem in this situation. Hearing that her individual power is what really matters, the young woman starts to break into a cold sweat. Angrily, the cousin points her finger and questions if the newcomer understands her current risky position. With a confident smile, the blonde girl affirms that she understands all of this very well and prepares to fight. At that instant, the prodigy observes his great friend with a very serene look, knowing her potential. Stomping her foot on the ground, the warrior firmly declares that she hasn't given up on becoming the great leader. Pointing her blade forward, the girl confidently declares that she can defeat her relative in combat. Unfazed, the older fighter just gives a sharp look, accepting the newcomer's great challenge. In the blink of an eye, the opponent charges forward, tearing across the arena like a true bolt of golden energy. In the stands, the other students are shocked, commenting that the woman simply vanished from sight, appearing right above the young woman. Her relative raises her enormous sword, asking her to show her full strength. A thunderous clash occurs as the blonde girl raises her weapon to block the rival's attack. Even with her feet sinking into the ground from the brutal weight of the blow, the rookie warrior holds her ground. But soon the upperclassman puts even more power into her arm and throws her opponent back with great force. Observing everything, the hero notes that the older fighter managed to gain the advantage very quickly. With his hand on his chin, the team leader assesses how his friend will deal with a technique just like her own. Getting into position, the experienced cousin prepares a powerful piercing strike, fully charged with lightning. The blonde girl tries to defend herself, using the middle of her blade, but ends up being dragged backward by the force. Seeing her struggle, the young woman's friends panic, hoping she doesn't get seriously hurt. Sliding across the arena, the swordswoman realizes her injuries were minor and tries to catch her breath. Panting from exhaustion, the warrior clutches her chest with a scared look, feeling the immense pressure of the fight. The boys on the team also break into a cold sweat seeing their teammate being completely dominated in just a few seconds. Gritting her teeth, the young blonde girl tightens her grip on her weapon, preparing to continue the duel. Full of confidence, the cousin scoffs, noting that the girl continues to swing her weapon without thinking under pressure. Overcome with rage, the girl lets out a great cry of fury and charges forward using her lightning technique. However, the older woman counters with extreme ease, activating a counter attack called Dispersed Thunder. The clash of abilities creates a huge and destructive explosion of pure electrical energy throughout the arena. Suffering from the impact, the young blonde girl screams in pain as she is hit by the strong lightning from the attack. Observing the dust, the older cousin realizes that the newcomer's effort was all for nothing. Standing tall, the woman laments that the girl's bad habits haven't changed at all and have prevented her from improving. Even injured and very tired, the warrior leans on her sword, stating that the fight isn't over. With a cold look, her relative tells her to give up because with so little skill, victory is unrealistic. She then brings up her uncle, who should have brought the young woman to the North Wing from the very beginning. Without pity, the upperclassman points her large blade at the newcomer, showing her total superiority. Refusing to be defeated, the blonde girl gets up and holds her weapon with a look full of determination. Noticing her rival's stubbornness, the older woman sighs and decides to end this once and for all. At that moment, the young warrior's eyes widen as she notices her opponent's enormous energy. With her sword glowing, the cousin charges forward, telling the newcomer to use this moment to reflect. In a desperate act, the smaller swordswoman tries to block the terrible blow coming her way, but the experienced relative doesn't back down and puts even more brutality and lightning into her swift attack. The powerful impact hits the girl head-on, throwing her backward as if she were nothing at all. A wave of energy tears through the arena, and the young woman suffers from the pure destructive force of that attack. Being thrown through the air, the blonde girl grits her teeth, trying to endure the immense pain in her body. Taking advantage of the opening, the woman takes a huge leap, preparing to finish her opponent right there. Trembling with sheer desperation, the blue-haired girl fears what might happen to her friend. With a calm smile, the team leader reassures the team, saying the warrior will surpass her limits. Furious, the cousin orders her to surrender while launching her ultimate sword technique against the girl. But the newcomer refuses to go down and raises her weapon to activate her second secret technique. A divine pillar of thunder crashes into the arena, creating a blinding light that covers the entire combat area. In the stands, all the students are in shock, wondering if that violent fight is over. When the smoke clears, the upperclassman stands still with a confused expression, trying to understand the blow. Looking ahead, she realizes that her young opponent is still standing firm in the fight. Even with her body covered in injuries, the blonde girl smiles for having managed to withstand her relative's attack. Utterly perplexed, the woman wonders how the girl survived a blow that should have been a finishing one. Turning her back to her friends, the swordswoman admits that her past self would have already been down. Observing his teammate, the prodigy gives a proud smile, knowing how hard she worked to change. Full of energy, the girl announces that she has spent a lot of time training and declares that the fight starts now. A memory shows the team leader asking if his partner was nervous about fighting today. Looking a bit down, she says that her cousin was the one who taught her the basics of her current style. The upperclassman always gave good advice when she had doubts and acted like a true mentor. Understanding the situation, the dark-haired boy puts his hand on his chin, paying attention to her great hesitation. Sadly, the girl confesses that she could never beat her relative and that it weighs heavily on her mind. Fearing her opponent's growth, the blonde girl admits she said too much and doesn't know if she has a chance to win. Clenching his fists, the protagonist decides to intervene to end his teammate's insecurity. Holding his friend's shoulders, the young man smiles, asking her to focus only on the training they had. He demands that the warrior remember the effort and all the sweat she shed over the past few years. Scenes show the tough training they did, lifting giant rocks and taking hard hits. Remembering the past, the girl is thrown to the ground after receiving a strong attack during her training. With a very annoyed face, the young woman listens to her friend ask if the training routine was that bad. With his hand on his chin, the hero points out that her worst flaw is losing her combat awareness when she gets too emotional, pointing his finger. He explains that the training was meant to help her stay calm, but the blonde girl complains about the hard hits. Giving a wink, the dark-haired boy jokes that it was all part of his charm, leaving the girl a bit annoyed. He then assures her that the results are already showing, and now she can see everything much more calmly. The warrior places a hand on her chest, listening as he says she'll understand everything when she can see her rival's moves. With her eyes shining intensely, the young warrior finally understands what her master meant. With a huge smile, the leader guarantees with absolute certainty that this new combat awareness will change everything. More relieved, the girl listens to him brag about giving great lessons as the strongest fighter there is. With a slight smile on her face, the blonde girl thanks him for the support, saying she feels much calmer now. The leader smiles excitedly, saying that the rival using the same old technique will be an excellent opportunity. Pointing his finger very confidently, the prodigy gives his final instruction for the battle. He tells the girl to carefully watch her relative's technique, just like they always did in training. Observing the older woman from a distance, the girl focuses on learning her moves to become even more powerful. Wiping the blood from her own face, the newcomer reveals she spent the entire fight paying attention to the moves. In a fighting stance, the girl reveals she endured all of that just to finally be able to see the attacks. The older fighter is completely confused, unable to understand what the girl's statement means. In a single leap, the warrior charges full speed toward her great adversary with enormous speed. The girl's divine sword soon glows intensely as it cuts through the air, preparing a powerful magic attack. The upperclassman's eyes widen in shock as she realizes her opponent has significantly slowed down her own rhythm. The woman raises her weapon just in time and manages to defend against the strong electric blow, starting a direct clash. Breaking into a cold sweat, the upperclassman is shocked, not understanding how the girl managed that move. With a strong aura and an intense gaze, the newcomer activates her thunder needle, firing lightning in all directions. Caught completely by surprise, the woman takes the frontal attack and is pushed back with great force. With a big spin, the blonde girl leaps over her relative, who can't understand this sudden change. Taking advantage of her position from above, the warrior attacks with a strong flash, making her relative suffer from the blow. With a beautiful smile, the newcomer explains that she can now see the perfect rhythm and will use it to her advantage. Clutching her chest, the woman argues that it's impossible for someone to copy a technique so quickly. From the stands, the female students are jaw-dropped, cheering loudly for their friend's beautiful change in attitude. Satisfied, the hero smiles, thinking it's great to fight against similar techniques, while his blonde teammate tries to understand the improvement. Pointing excitedly, the prodigy explains that the girl mastered the technique in the middle of the duel. Her companions listen to the explanation that before, the girl would get flustered and could only see her own weapon, but now she has finally matured and has the complete calm to observe the steps of any strong opponent. Because of this keen observation, noticing her own style in her rival, the girl has reached a very high power level. Very angry, the relative charges forward, refusing to lose to a skill copied at the last minute like that. Gritting her teeth, the young woman focuses all her new power into her arms and goes in for another confrontation. The clash of blows creates a brilliant impact, kicking up dust. Using the swift thunder ability, shaken by the immense concentrated power, the veteran fighter ends up being thrown back in the arena. In midair, the woman's eyes nearly pop out, not believing she is being surpassed by the beginner. Advancing with her glowing sword, the newcomer shouts that she focused a lot on her physical conditioning. With an almost insane lightning-filled gaze, the girl announces she will use her own main technique. She then brings her blade down with full force, creating a colossal explosion of magical power in the arena. Hit head-on, the older cousin lets out a loud scream, feeling the full force of the blow. The force of the attack is so great that it ends up destroying a large part of the massive arena floor. Panting from exhaustion, the blonde warrior tries to catch her breath after expending her energy. In the midst of the smoke, the upperclassman tries to stay on her feet while letting out a weak, tired laugh. With a gentle smile and covered in injuries, the woman praises her relative's great growth. Immediately after, the warrior loses consciousness and collapses to the ground, marking the end of the confrontation. And with that, the referee announces the fine victory for the East Wing, leaving the young newcomer quite relieved. In the stands, the other students and instructors are very surprised by the outcome of that fight. One of the judges even starts to clap, praising the beautiful level of the battle they had just fought. Then the hero's entire team runs to help their friend, celebrating that the ordeal is finally over. Very happy, the blonde girl celebrates her success, remembering that the next one to fight will be the leader himself. The blue-haired girl comments that the next opponent is very famous, and everyone looks on with great curiosity. She says that the young man is known as the greatest genius his family has had in a long time. Looking to the side, the hero gives a small, excited smile, noting that the guy seems to be very skilled. The blonde girl